Hey everyone, welcome to Cobwebs. My name is Daniel, and today it's time for my complete Blu-ray collection. Yes, for this video, I'm going to show you each and every Blu-ray and 4K that I own. It's a little over 1,200 titles. So we got a lot of movies to talk about, and I decided if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So I'm going to sit here, hold up each and every movie, talk about as many of them as I can, although briefly. It's going to be a long one, so get comfortable or watch it in multiple parts. I know I certainly would. And yeah, let's do this. So we're going to start off with my alphabetical, just kind of standard Blu-rays and 4Ks. I thought that'd be a cool way to start because I talk about that stuff less than my boutique stuff. So after we're done with the standard alphabetical movies, we're going to talk about my boutique collections like Criterion and Scream Factory, Vinegar Syndrome, stuff like that. So that's a lot of movies. Let's jump into it. So first up, 3:10 to Yuma. This, I think, is the first R-rated movie I saw in the theater. My dad took me to see it. Western with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, and I loved it. But I lost a little bit of respect for it when I saw the original because I realized this remake brought very little new to the table. It's basically the exact same movie. Next up is 9. This was given to me as a gift from one of my wife's family members, and I couldn't get through it. It's an animated movie, and I don't know. It was not for me. Then we've got 21 and 22 Jump Street. These are, well, the first one especially is one of my favorite comedies in like the past 20 years. Absolutely love it. 22 Jump Street I still like, but I thought it lost something because this one was subversive and switched up expectations. And then this one decided to be subversive by just going back to standard expectations. And that was a little less interesting for me. But I do still really dig them, of course. And 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. So this one, I really enjoy this. It's not one of my favorite zombie movies, but it's quite good. I recently found out this is actually a really valuable Blu-ray because it's been super out of print for a long time. And I got it for like $5 back in the day. And I also bought 28 Weeks Later, though I haven't opened or watched it yet. So perhaps this Halloween season will be the time. 50-50, really good dramedy. Back when they made like dramedies that were good like this, that were like dramatic movies, but still funny. Well, that's what a dramedy is. I don't know why I'm specifying, but this is a good movie about cancer. So there you go. 50 First Dates. Yeah, one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. I rewatched this with my wife recently and it holds up. It's fun. I mean, it's got some dumb jokes in there for sure, but Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, they just have such great chemistry. A Quiet Place. This is a good movie. It's not one that I feel the pull to rewatch very often, but especially when I saw it in theater, it was very effective. I certainly liked it a lot better than the sequel. That's just me. Here's a Steven Seagal 3-pack. I actually really like these classic Steven Seagal movies. Above the Law, that's his first one. It's really good. Under Siege, so much fun. I've actually got a standard release of that somewhere else. But I've never seen Under Siege 2. I need to watch it. I like those Steven Seagal movies. They're ridiculous, and he's so cheesy in them, although he takes himself so seriously. Speaking of cheesy action movies, Action Jackson, though this is one of my favorite action movies of all time. Rest in peace, Carl Weathers. Just loved Carl Weathers in this movie. Him and Vanity, and you've got Craig T. Nelson as the villain. Sharon Stone is kind of the femme fatale, sort of. Not really. But this is an amazing action movie. I love it so much. Another amazing movie, The Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn. One of the most nostalgic movies from my childhood. I grew up with this movie. I loved it so much. It's still the best Robin Hood movie, although another one comes very close. Air Force One. This is a movie I loved when I was a teenager. Action movie with Harrison Ford as the president. Get off my plane. Oh man, it meant so much to me. I don't rewatch it much as an adult. It's a silly movie, but I like it. It's good. Okay, and then we've got Alien movies. Alien, which is still my favorite one of the franchise that I've seen. It's a great movie for sure. Aliens, which I've never loved as much as a lot of other people do. I don't know. People talk about how action-packed it is, and it doesn't feel that action-packed to me, but it's good. It's good. Alien 3, I only saw half of when I was a teenager with my dad, and we hated it and bailed on it. And then I never saw Alien Resurrection, but I bought it because I intend to give it a chance as an adult, and I do want to see Alien Resurrection because it kind of seems like the kind of cheese that I enjoy, so I should watch it. All the Right Moves. I bought this with the intention to watch it. I haven't seen it. It's a teen football movie with Tom Cruise from the 80s. That seems like the kind of thing I'd like. I need to check it out. American Pie. I actually blind bought this movie because I didn't grow up with it or anything. And I watched it for the first time on Blu-ray. And it's fine. It's fine. American Werewolf in London. One of my favorite horror movies of all time. My second favorite werewolf movie for sure. Incredible movie. Special effects, comedy, drama, horror. It's just got it all. It's just got it all, baby. Anaconda. I still haven't opened this. I've seen it, but I watched it and quite enjoyed it and bought it on Blu-ray. It never popped in the Blu-ray, but come on, Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Owen Wilson's in this too. But Jon Voight is the showstopper. I mean, come on, his performance is so hilarious in that movie. Anchorman, pretty good. Anchorman 2, pretty good too. I'm not the biggest Anchorman guy, but they're pretty good. Angel Heart. This is quite a good movie, actually. This is a like horror noir from the 90s. I think it's the 90s. It could be. Oh, it's 1987. With Mickey Rourke doing this investigation and some satanic stuff comes up involving Robert De Niro. It's quite a good movie. It's kind of an underseen one, and I recommend it. Annihilation. This is an excellent movie. This is my favorite from that director, although I haven't seen Men, and he's got a new movie coming out. Alex Garland, that's his name. But this is a pretty incredible sci-fi horror sort of a thing. Sorry, Natalie Portman. I loved it. I think it's great. Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is back when I collected Marvel movies. I haven't bought a Marvel movie in forever because they're all on Disney Plus, and I kind of don't care that much anymore. But these are pretty fun. These are pretty fun movies. Apocalypse Now. I've never seen this. Yes, I've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. I've not seen Apocalypse Now, but I bought it with the intention to watch it. I'm just not a war movie guy, but it kind of sounds like this might be the kind of war movie I like because it's kind of more of a psychological thriller, I've heard. Argo, very good movie. I actually bought this when when Ben Affleck got announced as Batman, and I was like, I should see more Ben Affleck, I guess. And I went out and bought Argo, and I watched it, and I really liked it. He also directed this movie. It won Best Picture, which is kind of weird. It doesn't feel Best Picture worthy to me, but what Best Picture winners really do. It is good. I really enjoyed it. It's very funny. Arrival. This is an incredible movie. This is my favorite movie from that director, Denis Villeneuve. He's kind of all the rage right now. I'm not quite as big a fan of him as a lot of people are, though I haven't seen Dune 2 quite yet. But Arrival is my favorite. It's pretty incredible science fiction movie. I really like sci-fi movies that are not about fighting the aliens, but are about the wonder of discovery of other life. And that's what this movie is very much about. I like movies like that. Aquaman, it's fun. It's a fun movie. I still haven't seen Aquaman 2. I can't say I care. I've kind of burned out on the superhero genre at this point. I'm sure I'll get back into it, but I'm not there yet. But when Aquaman came out, it was quite fun. The Sphinx. I haven't watched this yet. This is a 1970s kind of gothic horror sci-fi film, I understand, a redemption release. I do have some boutique releases in here that I don't have enough of to kind of justify their own section. So that's one of them. At the Earth's Core. This is a technically a Kino Lorber release, but it's not one of the Kino Studio classics with the black spines like all these back here, so I didn't put them back there. But this has Peter Cushing and Caroline Munro. It's kind of like a sci-fi thing, and I haven't watched it yet. I've actually owned it for years. I keep forgetting I even own it. I need to check it out. The first Avatar, I really liked first Avatar. I saw it in theaters like 4 times back in 2009, and I still enjoy it. I enjoyed the sequel too, though I haven't bought it. The Avengers. Okay, to talk about a movie that meant a lot to me, when it came out. I mean, it was pretty groundbreaking when it came out. It doesn't feel groundbreaking anymore, and I don't love it. It's not one of my favorite Marvel movies, but it's good. Then the rest of the Avengers movies, Avengers Age of Ultron, which I think is okay. I don't hate on it like a lot of people do, but I'm certainly not passionate about it. But these are 2 of my favorite superhero movies ever made. Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. In fact, Infinity War is my favorite MCU movie. I think they just stuck the landing with these movies. You know, they led the whole universe up to these, and the movie's delivered. It's very impressive, honestly. Bad Boys Collection, Bad Boys 1, 2, and Bad Boys for Life. I really like Bad Boys. I don't so much like Bad Boys 2, and I haven't seen Bad Boys for Life, but I've heard a lot of people say it's actually the best one. It's the only one Michael Bay didn't direct. So those are fun action movies. I'm going to move this stack a little closer. Bad Moms Christmas. This is my wife's. She really likes it. It's fine. Bad Lieutenant. This is a crazy movie from Werner Herzog, actually, directing Nicolas Cage. And an insane performance, but one that really works. And it's a very effective, disturbing cop movie. Okay, then we got the Batman movies. I'm just going to take all the Batman off. We're going to talk about them all one by one. Batman. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm still so nostalgic about it, and I love it so much. And Michael Caine is my... Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman, and Jack Nicholson is my favorite Joker. Batman Returns, incredible sequel, just incredible. So much darker, more horror-like and disturbing. Oh, I wish they made superhero movies like this these days. Batman Forever, which I enjoy. I have a lot of nostalgic about it, but I think it works more than it doesn't. Then we got the Dark Knight trilogy. These movies meant the world to me when they came out, and they don't so much anymore, but I have kept my love for Batman Begins. I do think that's really great. I don't love the Dark Knight as much as I once did, but I got a cool steelbook here. And then the Dark Knight Rises, kind of a lenticular slipcover. Isn't that fun? Then we got Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Cut. I hated this when it came out in theaters, and when I saw the Ultimate Cut, I turned around on it quite a bit. I actually do enjoy it, for as much of a mess as it is. But I love the Batman, Matt Reeves, the Batman. I think that's pretty incredible. Yeah, 3 hours, and it just didn't feel long to me. And Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz. Oh my gosh, Zoe Kravitz in this movie. Love them. And then I got the complete Batman the Animated Series. Cool thing about this box set is it also includes the movies Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Batman Sub-Zero. I think that's the only 2 movies it includes. But yeah, and it's got all the episodes of the original series, all the episodes of the New Adventures of Batman and Robin. Very nostalgic about this show, and it holds up. When I'm in a superhero mood, a Batman mood, I do like to pop some of those in from time to time. Mario Bava's Bay of Blood. This is a Kino Classics release. And I saw this a long time ago, and I honestly don't remember it. And I bought the Blu-ray with the intention to rewatch it, and I haven't yet. But one of these days I'll do like a Mario Bava video, and that'll come up for sure. If Beale Street Could Talk, heard this movie was great. Just a drama that came out a few years ago, and I bought it dirt cheap one day, and with the intention to watch it, one of these days I will, just have not yet. The Beast and the Magic Sword. This is a Paul Naschy movie, a Mondo Macabro release. Yeah, this is from the 80s. It's about Paul Naschy's werewolf character going into like Japan. It's a samurais and werewolves. Sounds awesome. I need to watch it. I bought it pretty recently. I haven't checked it out yet. Becky. Yeah. My friend Garrett from Born to Be Rad channel actually sent this to me. Very nice of him. And I haven't checked it out yet, but I need to do that. It's a recent horror movie. Bell Book and Candle, really fun 1950s witch romantic comedy with Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak. Beyond Skyline. A friend of mine does a podcast regularly with the director of this, which is why I bought it. And it's a pretty fun direct-to-video sci-fi action movie. And I heard the sequel might even be better, but I haven't watched it yet. Big Fish. Yes, this is Tim Burton, and it's a great movie. It's like a fantasy drama about father-son kind of stuff, but it's also got a really cute romance between Ewan McGregor and Alison Lohman, and it's very fantastical, and I really like it. The Big Sick. This is a great rom-com, a great recent rom-com with Kumail Nanjiani, back when Kumail Nanjiani looked like a normal person and wasn't like crazy buff, and it's kind of weird for a comedian. I don't know. I don't mean to body shame. I shouldn't be talking about that, but he's really buff and it's kind of weird, but I love that movie. It's great. The Big Fix. This is a Twilight Time release. This is a really great 1970s private detective movie with Richard Dreyfuss. And kind of one of those movies that's been a little bit lost to time, but I'm glad Twilight Time released it because it's actually really good. And if you can get your hands on it, I really recommend it. Big Trouble in Little China. I don't have the Scream Factory release. I just have this one. Controversially, not one of my favorite John Carpenter movies, even though Carpenter is my favorite director, but I like it. I like Kurt Russell's performance in it particularly. Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. How's that for a title? This came out right before the pandemic hit, so it was one of the first movies that one of the last movies I saw in theaters before all that went down. And I actually really like this movie. I know it took a lot of heat, but it has great action. Like, it has way better action sequences than most superhero movies, and it's pretty funny too. The Black Coat's Daughter is one of my favorite horror movies of the 2010s. It's just incredible, slow burn, satanic dread. Ugh, it's so awesome. Beetlejuice, great movie. What can you say? Not Beetlejuice 4 times, that's for sure. Don't say that. Black Panther, another good Marvel movie. Back when I collected Marvel movies. Speaking of Marvel movies, although not in the MCU, we got Blade 2. I've still never seen Blade Trinity, but I quite like Blade. I like it, but I love Blade 2. I think Blade 2 is, for me, it's the superior movie. Black Sunday. Yes, indeed. Mario Bava. That is a great 1960s witch movie, Italian Gothic. How can you not like it? All right, let's pull this stack. We're flying through these pretty quickly, actually. This is going good. Blind Spotting. This is a great movie from 2018. A little bit, I don't know if it's technically indie, but a little bit more under the radar. And when it came out, I said it was my favorite movie of 2018. I think after so many rewatches, I kind of have to admit it's Avengers Infinity War at this point, but definitely my favorite drama of that year. It's like about, dark stuff and race relations stuff, but it handles it all in a really fun way that's very entertaining and it's very funny. That's like just a great drama. I really liked it. The Blob. I want to get the Scream Factory 4K of this. I think it's time to upgrade this rinky-dink umbrella release with barely any special features. But I bought this before it was on Scream Factory. This is an OG. And it's one of my favorite 80s horror movies. I think it's amazing. Like the special effects, incredible. Blockers. I really like this comedy. My wife and I saw it together in theaters, and we watched it several times together since. It's kind of one of our special movies. It's just such a fun comedy about parenting. And it's like a teen. Here's what it is. This is a high school comedy about high schoolers wanting to have sex before graduation, like on prom night. But it's from the perspective of their parents, which is kind of a nice twist on it. And it's about the parents, like, kind of trying to stop this and not wanting their kids to have sex when they're too young. And it's really, really funny. And John Cena gives like a great performance in it. I'm going to say that right now. Blood and Bone. This is an action movie with Michael J. White that I've heard is great, and I haven't seen it yet. I bought it with the intention to watch it. Obviously. That's why I buy everything, right? With the intention to watch it. Bloodfest. This is really fun. Really fun Halloween movie from a few years ago in which some young people go to a Halloween theme park, and it turns out, oh, it's real and people are really trying to kill us. It's kind of similar to Hellfest, although I like Hellfest better. But Bloodfest is like the funnier version, while Hellfest takes itself more seriously. Blood on the Mummy's Tomb. Yeah, I have some Hammer movies on Studio Canal releases that have now gotten Scream Factory releases, but I bought them before Scream Factory was messing around with Hammer. This is one of those. It's the fourth Hammer mummy movie, and it's pretty good. It's not really a mummy movie. It's kind of a mummy movie in name only, but it's actually based on a Bram Stoker story, which is interesting. That's one of their last movies in their classic run. Like, it's from like the mid 70s, I think. Bloodsport and Time Cop Van Damme. Crazy that these movies have never gotten a better release than this rinky-dink double pack. But I love Van Damme. He's my favorite action hero. He has been ever since I was a kid. And I love both these movies, but especially Bloodsport. Bloodsport's like a masterpiece of martial arts action. Bridge on the River Kwai on 4K. I haven't checked this out yet, but when I started discovering that I don't hate war movies as much as I thought I did, I don't like a lot of war movies, but I started to find more I would like, and I thought I might like this one, and I got it on 4K, but I haven't checked it out yet. Body Heat. This is quite a good 1980s erotic thriller with William Hurt and Kathleen Turner. It's basically a remake of Double Indemnity from Billy Wilder. It's quite successful at doing that. It's not as good as Double Indemnity, but it's quite good. Braveheart. Loved this movie when I was a teenager. I don't watch it much these days, to be honest with you, but that's a good war movie. That's a war movie that I like. I like war movies better when it's swords instead of guns. I'm just more interested in swords. I think it's cooler. Breakdown. This is a Paramount. Oh. Sliding out. This is a Paramount Presents release, my only Paramount Presents release. A subscriber actually sent this to me, and I've heard it's great, so I need to check it out. Kurt Russell thriller. I might check this out very soon. This is a good wake-up call for me. Broken Arrow. This is one of my favorite John Woo movies, actually. And like, I don't know, if I were to like rewatch all his movies, would I say it's my favorite John Woo movie? That's probably sacrilege, but I love it. It's so much fun. Like, John Woo is a very particular kind of action, very stylized, very unique to himself. This is basically him doing standard Hollywood 90s action, you know, trying the normal way. And he's just better at it than like anybody else. Like, he proves that like I can do my non-stylized action, just do the way, you know, do like Con Air kind of action, you know, standard 90s stuff, and just blow the competition away. So good. Christian Slater, John Travolta, awesome. I love that movie. The Boy. This is actually a really underrated horror movie from the 2010s. I really like it. I saw it in theaters and I was like, that's actually pretty good. It was one of those January releases that got panned, and I was like, that's actually a good movie. And then I've rewatched it several times, and every time I watch it, I like it better. Great gothic atmosphere. It's super, super gothic, despite the fact that it takes place in present day. And it's got a twist at the end that is awesome, that makes the movie. Like, it's not just some spooky doll Annabelle kind of nonsense. Like, it's legit. It's good. Boyhood, a very good movie. Movie where Richard Linklater made a film over the course of like 20 years. And it ended up being this 3-hour epic about a young boy growing up, and he filmed that actor all through his growing up. Very impressive. Can't imagine ever watching it again. It's 3 hours of slice of life, but I liked it the first time. It was good. Bullet. This is a great movie. This is one of the OGs of the action genre. Steve McQueen, amazing car chase. Steve McQueen is just like the coolest dude you've ever seen in your life in this movie. And you should watch Bullet. Burn Witch Burn. I love this movie. This is a 1960s witch film, and it's just one of the best to ever do it. One of the best witch movies. Cliffhanger. I love Cliffhanger. It's a Rennie Harlan action movie with Sylvester Stallone. I think I really love Sylvester Stallone. I was thinking about it recently. I've never been able to decide, do I like Stallone or Schwarzenegger better? And recently I've been thinking, I might like Stallone better. I've been feeling like rewatching some Stallone movies, maybe checking some out for the first time I haven't seen. But Cliffhanger is awesome. It's another one of those like typical 90s action movies that just does it better than like almost anyone else does it. This is my wife's. This is very much my wife's. A Cinderella Story and another Cinderella Story. She made me watch I watched the Cinderella Story with her because I care about her and I want to watch the things she cares about. And I didn't think it was very good, but that's, my opinion does not matter in that movie. I do really like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, however. Super, super fun 90s vampire movie. I think I put this number 3 on my list of my favorite 90s vampire movies. I think it's great. Let's take a quick drink. Yeah, it's my Universal Monsters water cup. A friend of mine gave that to me for Christmas. Love it. Okay, Cabin Fever. I love this movie. This is by far my favorite Eli Roth movie. From what I've seen. I haven't actually seen near all of them. But I love Cabin Fever. It's one of my favorite early 2000s nostalgia horror movies. And a funny story about this. A good buddy of mine, we both loved this movie. We were in the same fraternity together in college. And we formed a movie club. And we showed this movie to the movie club. Everyone hated it. Everyone thought it was garbage. And like they teased us. I mean, jokingly teased, not serious teasing, but they like teased us about this for so long. And we always stood our ground. We're like, you guys are insane. Cabin Fever rules. And it does. Captain America. Mom, can we have Captain America? No, we have Captain America at home. That's basically what this is. It's an Albert Pune attempt at making a Captain America movie from the early 90s. And it's awful. Like, I'm sorry. I can't sit here and tell you that, like, no, it's actually secretly good, better than the MCU. No, it's terrible. But Captain America, the First Avenger, I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. I think it's underrated. Like, the beauty is in its simplicity. It's just a simple World War II adventure film, and it's so successful at it. Chris Evans just pops as the character so much right from the start. And I quite like Captain America Winter Soldier as well. It's one I've cooled on a little bit, whereas this one I just love more and more. The more I think about it, the more I see it. But this one, it's good as well. Captain America Civil War is the one that's really fallen for me, and I haven't even bothered to buy it. Casablanca, one of the greatest movies of all time. This is, to date, the best 4K I've ever seen. Like, I'm no 4K expert. I don't pretend to be on my channel whatsoever. But to my eyes, I've never been more impressed by a 4K than Casablanca. It's absolutely stunning, and it's an incredible movie. Casper's great. I mean, I'm so nostalgic about it and I love it. Just, 90s kids horror. It just doesn't get better than Casper, I don't think. This is a really underrated movie, Casual Sex. It's a sex comedy from the 80s, but it's interesting in that, like, it's from a female director. It focuses on 2 women who are, Leah Thompson from Back to the Future, and then Victoria Jackson. I'm not as familiar with her, but it just, they make a lot of female-centric comedies these days, like comedies from the female point of view. That's very popular. It has been since Bridesmaids, but this movie's very ahead of its time. I watched this and I was like, this is not your typical 80s sex comedy. Like, it's smarter, but it's also very interestingly from a female perspective in a way 80s comedies rarely are. But it's great. I thought it was terrific. Captain Marvel, it's okay. I got it super cheap, which is why I bought it. It kind of feels like a cheap Star Trek episode, but for 2 hours, and not like not a smart Star Trek episode, one of the lesser ones. Got Charles Bronson pack of Death Wish 2, 3, and 4. Never seen any of them. I've only seen the first Death Wish, and I should check out the sequels. Definitely should, because I love canon. Cannonball Run, another one I got super cheap. This is a 1970s kind of iconic movie with Burt Reynolds. I think it's got Farrah Fawcett as well. Yeah, Dom DeLuise, Roger Moore. And it's about a big race. And it's certainly not a great movie, but it's just nice to watch all those stars because, like, I love Burt Reynolds. You're going to see more Burt Reynolds in this collection video because I love him. Carrie, in contention for my favorite Stephen King movie. It's up there. Not quite, but it's up there. Love Carrie so much. I need to get the Scream Factory 4K, honestly, because I still just have that old release, but I love it. The Change Up. This is actually a pretty fun comedy. Super dumb, super raunchy, but my wife and I watched it and we had a good time. We like Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds. Her more Ryan Reynolds, me probably more Jason Bateman, but they're good in that movie. Another Charles Bronson pack. I should probably have those two together. This one has the Valachi Papers, the Stone Killer, Breakout, and Hard Times. I've only seen Breakout, and I never even opened this because I think I streamed Breakout before I owned this, maybe? I don't know, but I've heard Hard Times. That's a Walter Hill movie. I especially need to see that. Chef. This is just one of the top feel-good movies for me. Like, this movie just warms my heart. I love it so much. Jon Favreau as a chef who is trying to strike out on his own so that he can be artistically true to himself, but also try to build a relationship with his son, who he hasn't had a very good relationship with through his life. So it's a self-improvement movie. Self-improvement movies really resonate with me. That's one of my favorite kind of storytelling. And I love that film. Okay, let's make a little bit more room for myself. Scooch some stuff over. I think that'll do. This is a process, you guys. This is a process. Okay, Christmas in Connecticut. Really fun, old classic Christmas movie. The way I describe this is it's like a Hallmark movie, but back when they made movies like this with like real directors, real writers, real stars, and like it's well done. It's like a really well done version of a Hallmark movie, which I don't think Hallmark really ever does anymore. Not that I watch a lot. I really don't. Clash of the Titans. This is a really good... I'm just blanking on like all names. I'm starting to already go delirious, and we're in the seas. Oh my gosh, I gotta speed up. Okay, Ray Harryhausen. Great Ray Harryhausen 80s fantasy movie. I think it's really good. Another Twilight Time release, Chilly Scenes of Winter. This recently got a lot of buzz because it got a Criterion release, but I still haven't seen it. It doesn't sound like my thing, but I've heard it's great. So I bought it when Twilight Time was going out of business and they were selling everything dirt cheap. Christine, one of my favorite 80s movies. Just love John Carpenter's Christine. Another one of my favorite Stephen King movies for sure. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is also... That's my shirt. When I said that I love alien movies that are about the wonder of discovery of other life and not fighting aliens, this is the Citizen Kane of that genre, I think. I think Close Encounters is a masterpiece. One of my favorite Steven Spielberg movies. It's incredible, and I'm very happy to have it on 4K. Cobweb. I spoke very highly of this movie last October when I checked it out. I bought the Blu-ray and I loved it. It's a great October Halloween movie. Goes really crazy in the third act, but I like it when horror movies do that. I like something different, something interesting. Cobweb definitely gives us that. Collateral, very good Michael Mann movie. Very good Tom Cruise performance. Not one of my favorites, but it's very good. The Collector. This is actually one of my favorites of that whole torture era in the 2000s when Saw and House of Thousand Corpses also made it very popular to have like torture horror films. I mostly don't care about that genre, but I thought The Collector was actually very good, and I need to see the sequel, The Collection. One of my favorite Lovecraft movies. Oh my God, it's so good. Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. It just, if you want those H.P. Lovecraft vibes, this movie's going to give it to you more than almost anything else ever made. Colossal. It's actually quite a good movie. It starts out as like a dramedy about Anne Hathaway, whose life is kind of falling apart, but she meets Jason Sudeikis. They start to bond. But the movie turns into something very different as it goes, and it becomes very high concept, fantastical, and also intense and scary. It's just a very interesting genre hybrid. Like, if you just want to watch something really different, I think Colossal is a very good choice. Commando, come on, Schwarzenegger. I do love Schwarzenegger, even though I was just praising Stallone. And Commando's super fun. It's a super fun time. Compliance. Never watched this. This was a Dollar Tree pickup, actually. I got it for $1. I've heard it's very good, but very intense and will make you feel terrible about humanity. But I bought it. I still haven't opened it. It's been years. Years go by and Blu-rays sit on the shelf. We'll probably all die with unwatched movies in our collection. And that's sad, but it's a reality we have to accept as collectors. Con Air is awesome. I love Con Air. Nicolas Cage. I mean, the run of Nicolas Cage action movies in the 90s is just, that's about as good a run as action movies. It's about as good as it gets. Conan. These recently got 4Ks from Arrow, but I don't know. I still have this release and I'm fine with it. I haven't seen Conan the Barbarian in years, but I remember quite liking it. And I still haven't seen Conan the Destroyer, so need to check it out. The Conjuring. A movie that I loved when I saw it in theaters, but rewatched it a few times, especially because my family loves it. And I don't know. I really fell off the Conjuring universe. I didn't really care for much of anything past this movie, and it kind of soured me on this movie too. I don't know. It's just so standard and typical, and I just look for, I don't know. I feel like I need more from my horror movies now. I need something different. Corpse Bride, excellent stop motion Tim Burton movie. Absolutely love it. The Covered Wagon. Oh, this was interesting. One time, one of my first Kino Lorber big orders I put in, they threw this in for free. So I don't know if it was a mistake or if it was a thank you for being a new customer sort of thing. But this is an extremely early movie from 1923. It's one of the OG Westerns. And I don't know. I don't know when I'll watch it, but I own it. So that's cool. It was free. Cowboy Bebop, the movie. I used to be kind of interested in anime. I was never a big anime guy, but I like Cowboy Bebop. I really like this movie. And I love the Studio Ghibli stuff. That's most of the anime that I love these days. Crazy Stupid Love. This movie was so popular when it came out in 2011. So popular. And it is good. I do like it. Creepshow 2, nowhere near as good as Creepshow, not even the same ballpark, even slightly for me. But I do really like The Raft. The middle segment is quite good. And I kind of like the third one too. Creepshow's pretty good. Creepshow 2. Creepshow 1 is amazing. Crimes of the Future, just recently saw this. It's a recent David Cronenberg movie, and I wasn't big on it. It's very disturbing and gross, and has a really messy script. Just got so much going on that doesn't go anywhere. Crimson Peak, one of my favorite haunted house movies with Guillermo del Toro. Oh my gosh, beautiful movie, just visually stunning. Just one of the best modern gothic films. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that is a great movie. That is an absolutely great movie. I love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Ang Lee, martial arts, epic romance. That movie just got it all. Cult of Chucky. I have all the rest of the Chucky movies in a collection. I'll get to that soon, but this is the only one I own separately. And I've only seen it once, but when it came out, I really enjoyed it. A lot of people hated it, but I like the ending for how ballsy it was. It was a crazy, crazy ending, and I respected it. A Cure for Wellness. This is actually a good movie. It's a 2.5-hour horror film from Gore Verbinski, and I realize it's a hard sell to watch a 2.5-hour horror movie. But if you got the time, I think it's worth the investment. I think it's really interesting, very visually beautiful, very different. And Curse of Frankenstein. Mainly now I watch my Warner Archive release of this movie because it looks much better. But this is a release that I had before the Warner Archive came out. It's a UK release, Region B, and it has so many special features, which is really cool. I could never get rid of this because Curse of Frankenstein is one of my favorite movies of all time. All right. Next up, we've got Cyborg, Jean-Claude Van Damme, canon movie from the 80s. It's a weird movie, but I really like it. We're finally in the D's. All right, Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner. This movie gets a lot of hate because it beat Goodfellas for the best picture at the Oscars, and it shouldn't have. But as a movie on its own, I think it's very, very good. Dark Shadows, shockingly good, actually. This movie also got so much hate when it came out, so much, because it's very different than the original show. But I don't know, besides a lighter tone, it's not as different as people act like it is. It still follows the basic story structure, and it's not as goofy a comedy as I think some people accuse it of being. And it looks amazing visually. That's a Tim Burton movie. He knows how to make a good looking movie. And it's got a very Halloween-y atmosphere, pumpkins and such. It's a good October movie. Dark Star, John Carpenter's first movie, basically a student film that got turned into more because someone decided to put some investment into it. It feels like a student film that got stretched out too long. But it's interesting for me because John Carpenter's my favorite director. Darkman, love Darkman, great Sam Raimi superhero movie. That's also kind of a mix of a monster movie, love it. Days of Thunder, one of my favorite Tony Scott movies, one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies. I think this is so much better than Top Gun. There's no comparison. Days of Thunder is awesome. Dead Poet Society. It's actually my wife's favorite movie. If it's not Back to the Future, it's Dead Poet Society for her, and it is a great, great drama with Robin Williams giving a great performance. Deadpool 2. I actually own Deadpool 1 digitally, and then I own Deadpool 2 on 4K. And I went into this movie at the theaters with zero expectations because I don't care that much about Deadpool, and I thought it was going to be garbage. I waited weeks to finally watch it. And I went, almost under protest, and I liked it a lot. I don't know, with low expectations, I had a great time with Deadpool 2. I thought it was much better than the first one. Dead Silence, good James Wan movie, ventriloquist dummy horror. I really like that. That's good stuff. Deep Blue Sea. I haven't seen this since I was a kid, but I bought it. It's still in the wrapping, and I want to rewatch it because I like shark movies. Deliverance, another movie. I haven't seen this since I was a teenager either. Very disturbing survivalist 70s movie, and I want to rewatch it. So I forgot I owned this. That's why doing this collection stuff is good. It reminds you of all the movies that you have that, you haven't never popped in or haven't popped in forever. Death Warrant, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I really enjoy about him going into a prison to stop this serial killer, and it's pretty awesome, honestly. It really is. 3 Chuck Norris favorites. I kind of like Chuck Norris movies, even though most of them are bad. bad. The Delta Force didn't really like. Lone Wolf McQuade is probably my second favorite Chuck Norris movie. It's really good. And then Code of Silence is interesting, although a little slow. The Descendants. This is actually one of my favorite recent dramas. It's from 2011. It's about George Clooney in Hawaii dealing with family problems, personal problems. And there's something about the beautiful atmosphere of Hawaii paired with just melancholy sadness as he deals with difficult things. I don't know. I find it very relaxing. And I love the supporting cast because it's like full of comedy actors giving good drama performances. It's like Alexander Payne was just kind of going for that as a theme. Like Matthew Lillard gives a good dramatic performance in this. The Devil's Men. This is an Indicator release that I have. And I still haven't seen it. It's got Donald Pleasance and Peter Cushing, though. It's a 70s satanic movie, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. Speaking of devils, The Devil Rides Out. This is a Hammer movie that I got a little bit of heat for not putting in my top 10 Hammer movies video, but I like this movie. I just don't love it. It's not one of my top Hammer movies, but it is a good satanic film. I do like it for sure. Dirty Harry and Magnum Force. I love Dirty Harry. I haven't seen Magnum Force since I was a teenager, and I never saw any of the others. Here is a Shout Factory double pack of Race with the Devil and Dirty Mary Crazy Larry, a couple of 70s car movies. I love Race with the Devil. It's a good mix of an exploitation car racing movie with satanic horror. But Dirty Mary Crazy Larry is kind of aimless, a little bit interesting, but has a really insane ending that it's kind of like, why did I watch this movie? Disclosure and Fatal Attraction. I blind bought this to check out both of them. And Fatal Attraction, I didn't think was as good as a lot of other people do. And Disclosure, I still haven't seen. Django Unchained, great movie. Absolutely fantastic. Quentin Tarantino. This was actually the movie that got me into Tarantino. When it came out, I was like, oh, I think I like this Tarantino guy. I need to watch the rest of his movies. And now he's probably my favorite working director. Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy is kind of a ripoff. Well, no, not ripoff. Wrong word. Made in the wake of Batman 1989 to try to get Batman success. I don't know why they decided to make a Dick Tracy movie to try to get Batman success. It didn't work, but it's an interesting movie now. Visually incredible. Die Hard. Great movie. What can you say? Probably one of the best of all time. And Die Hard 2, underrated. Love it. I actually don't own Die Hard 3. That's another one I haven't seen since I was a teenager, and I should check it out again. Dr. Sleep. This is probably the best horror movie of the 2010s. I said it. Best horror movie of the 2010s. Dr. Sleep, sequel to The Shining. Maybe I like it even more than The Shining. And the director's cut, I should say. Theatrical cut, pretty good. Director's cut's like one of the most, it's 3 hours. And it's like one of the most emotionally powerful horror films I've ever seen in my life. And also genuinely scary. Like what a combination there. Doctor Strange. You know. It's okay. I got it dirt cheap at a pawn shop, to be honest with you. Dodge City. I love Dodge City. I actually haven't rewatched it since I got the Blu-ray, but I've seen it a million times when I was a kid. And I did rewatch it recently on streaming. That's when I decided, oh, I need to buy it. It's a great Western. Like of all like the 1930s, early 40s Westerns, which is not one of my favorite air times for Westerns. This is one of the best, probably this and Stagecoach. Don't Breathe. This was Fede Alvarez's follow-up to the Evil Dead remake, and I love it. It's a great twist on the home invasion subgenre. Dog Eat Dog. It's a Nicolas Cage movie with William Dafoe, and I like both those actors, but I've not watched that. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it. I think it's direct to video. Double Impact. Actually, not one of my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movies where he plays twins, and it's not as good as it sounds, but it is pretty good. Good enough to own. Double Indemnity, like I just mentioned with Body Heat, one of the greatest movies of all time. One of my favorite noir films of all time. Probably my second favorite, honestly. Double Team, more Jean-Claude Van Damme. Quite enjoy this movie, actually. It's ridiculous, corny. It's from Hong Kong director Chu Hark. Is that how you say his name? I don't know. I probably shouldn't have even tried. But good movie. Dog Soldiers, a movie I got a lot of heat for on this channel, about not loving as much as everybody else does. I think it's okay. That was a Dollar Tree pickup, actually. Bram Stoker's Dracula from Francis Ford Coppola, one of my favorite movies of all time. I seem to talk about this movie anytime I possibly get the chance on this channel, so I've talked about it a lot. I love it. Now we're in a bit of a Dracula run. Most of my Dracula movies are in boutique label collections, so we'll get to more, but we got Dracula Prince of Darkness, great Hammer movie. We've got Dracula's Risen from the Grave, one of my favorite Hammer movies of all time. Love that one. Taste the Blood of Dracula, another fun Hammer film. And Dracula Untold, which is not good, but I blind bought it because it's a Dracula movie and it's in the collection, unfortunately. I almost said Evil Dead. Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi. Absolutely love this movie. It's probably my favorite Sam Raimi horror movie. I know, but I think it's incredible. Dragon Ball Z season 1. I don't know. I have friends who are really into anime and were trying to get me into it, and they love Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, I'll try it. And I'm too old. I'm too old to get in this type of thing, but maybe when my son's old enough to watch it, he'll enjoy it. Dragged Across Concrete. Haven't seen this one yet, but I like the first 2 movies from the director, S. Craig Zahler, which were Bone Tomahawk and Brawl in Cell Block 99. Really like those and just haven't watched this one yet. Dress to Kill. This is Brian De Palma movie. Very good thriller. Twist on the giallo genre. Twist on Psycho. I did not mean to throw that. What a crazy video this is. Drive, one of my favorite 90s action movies. Not Drive with Ryan Gosling. This is Drive with, what even is his name? Mark Dacascos and Kadeem Hardison and Brittany Murphy. Oh, it's so good. Great MVD release. Here's Drive with Ryan Gosling. Also a good movie. Driver, really like this, with Ryan O'Neal. And this was very much the main inspiration for Drive with Ryan Gosling. And it's very good. Walter Hill movie. The Duff. Better than you'd think. It's a teen movie. Is this like the last teen movie I've liked? I don't know. It came out like in the mid 2010s. I actually really enjoyed it. The main character is a big horror fan, so she's got like Lucio Fulci posters on her wall, and like I felt seen. The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, 2 classic movies from my childhood. Loved both these movies so much. Ed Wood, very good biopic on Ed Wood from Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp. Great cast in that. Great movie for a classic horror fan. More Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. Edward Scissorhands. Yes, Johnny Depp played an Ed for Tim Burton twice, and that's a classic movie from my childhood. I love Edward Scissorhands. Edge of 17 is one of my wife's favorite movies, and I really like it too. This is another really good recent teen movie, drama with Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson. Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, whatever you want to call it. When I saw it in theaters, it was Edge of Tomorrow. One of the best Tom Cruise action movies. One of the absolute greatest sci-fi action movies ever made. Here's a double pack. Robert Rodriguez, El Mariachi, and Desperado. I'm not the biggest Robert Rodriguez fan. I thought El Mariachi was okay. I like Desperado. I don't love it, but I like it. It's a good action flick. Elektra, never seen it. I was kind of curious about it, and I got it dirt cheap. It's one of those 2000s superhero movies that I missed, and I still haven't seen it. Escape from New York, John Carpenter. Don't love this one as much as a lot of other people do either. But it's, it is what it is. You've all seen it. E.T., very good Steven Spielberg movie. I imagine you've seen that too. Event Horizon. Actually didn't love this one. I saw it with a friend of mine years ago, and we weren't big fans, but I want to rewatch it, so I kept it in the collection. I want to give it another chance. Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness is in my Scream Factory collection, and the Evil Dead remake. I love Evil Dead, have it on 4K, although I haven't watched it on 4K yet, because I bought this before I had a 4K player and watched the Blu-ray it comes with, so I need to watch it on 4K, but that's my favorite Evil Dead movie. Evil Dead 2, I've never loved it as much as a lot of other people do, but I do love the remake. When I saw this in theaters, it was the goriest movie I'd ever seen, and it made such an impact, like a really fun impact. Gross, and it was a great time. Evil Eye, Mario Bava. This is actually his first giallo. A lot of people credit it as the first giallo, I believe, even before Blood and Black Lace. And also goes by The Girl Who Knew Too Much. And I think I watched the wrong cut when I saw it. I think I saw the American cut, and I should have watched the Italian cut because I thought it was okay, but I need to watch the Italian cut. Ex Machina, another Alex Garland movie. Loved it when I saw it in theaters, but when I rewatched it, I was just bothered by how stupid Domhnall Gleeson's character is. Like, I don't know, when you rewatch it, you just realize he's the dumbest character I've ever seen in my life. And it kind of took the movie down for me. Kurt Russell, An Executive Decision. That's a pretty good plain action movie that's got Steven Seagal in a very small role, and he got killed off. And stories about him on set are both funny and disturbing because he was such a jerk to everyone. I think because he gets killed off in this. But he seems like he was a jerk on every movie. Extremity. This is an underrated little indie horror movie. It's about those extreme haunted houses. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but haunted houses that are not really about horror or scariness, but they're about like pretty much literally torturing people. And it's like a real thing. And this movie's about that, but it's about what if a person goes into there and fights back. And it's actually pretty good. Eye of the Tiger, Gary Busey, 80s action movie. I've not seen it yet. The Fablemans, have not seen this yet either. Steven Spielberg's latest movie. Pretty sure his latest movie, right? He's been pumping them out a lot lately. But yeah, latest one. Heard it's great. Haven't seen it. Face Off. Come on, Nicolas Cage action. John Woo, how can you go wrong? The Family Man, more Nicolas Cage. I really like this movie. I love this movie since I was a kid. I grew up on it. My family loves it. It's like a heartwarming Christmas, kind of Frank Capra type movie with Nicolas Cage. It's very successful at that, actually. It does a good job at being that kind of movie. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I'm not a Harry Potter guy at all. I've read the first 4 books, watched the first 4 movies. That's it. But I enjoyed this when I saw it in theaters. I saw the sequel and I thought it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But this first one I thought was pretty good. Fantastic Four. Do I have the second one? I thought I did. Apparently I don't have the second one. Okay, just Fantastic Four. This is a big movie from my childhood, and I still love it. I know a lot of people hate on it, but I don't know. I'm very nostalgic about it. Fantastic Voyage. Watched about half of this and did not care for it. I got that one for free. Somebody gave it to me. A Farewell to Arms. Yeah, I haven't seen this. Based on the Ernest Hemingway novel, and it's got Gary Cooper. I need to watch it. Fast 5, I think it's just like one of the greatest action movies ever, like honestly. And then Fast and Furious 6, which is pretty good. I like that one too. It's nowhere near as good as Fast 5 though. Faster with Dwayne Johnson, not very good, but it's like his only R-rated action movie. So I was curious about it because of that. And it's still not very good. Fargo is incredible. One of the best Coen brothers films. Father of the Bride and Father of the Bride Part 2. Very nostalgic about the first movie. Absolutely love it. My wife and I love it so much. And Father of the Bride 2 is like ridiculous, but it's still entertaining. But it's a ridiculous movie, even more than the first one. Fault in Our Stars. I don't like this movie at all, but my wife is a big fan of the author, John Green, who wrote the book. So we have it because of her, but she doesn't even love the movie that much. She likes the book much better. And it's not even one of her favorite books from John Green, though. Rambo First Blood, or just First Blood. I've been recently thinking I need to get this on 4K, and I need to get the sequels on 4K because I haven't yet. But this is one of the greatest action movies, dramas, like ever. It's incredible. First Reformed. This movie hit me so hard when I saw it in the theater. It is a Paul Schrader movie. And when I grew up in church, and when I saw this movie, it's like the only time I recognized church in a movie. Like I saw it and I was like, this movie gets what it's really like. It's a very intense thriller. It's a great film. Jackie Chan's First Strike. I got this when I was in a little phase where I was like, I want to see more Jackie Chan movies. It turned out to be a brief phase, and I still haven't watched that. But I do want to get back into the whole Jackie Chan thing. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think it's one of the greatest comedies ever made. It's like some of the most comforting comfort food I've ever seen. I love it so much. Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. I got a review of this on the channel. Movie I don't like as much as a lot of other people, but I do love the Hammer Frankenstein series, so happy to have it. Free Guy. My wife loves this movie, and I enjoyed it. It's pretty good. Ryan Reynolds' little action adventure blockbuster. Fright Night, my favorite movie. Yes, my favorite movie of all time is the original Fright Night from 1985, vampire film starring Chris Sarandon and Roddy McDowall. And I just can't say enough about how much I love this, and I love the 4K Steelbook. Fright Night 2, this is actually a bootleg. Don't tell anybody, because they refused to release Fright Night 2 on Blu-ray or 4K. I don't know why. But nowhere near as good as the first one, but still pretty good vampire movie. I like it. The Fugitive, classic Harrison Ford action thriller. Drama thriller. Fun Size. This is a very fun teen movie that takes place on Halloween night. You wouldn't tell by the cover that it's a Halloween movie, but it's very much a Halloween movie. Just a comedy on Halloween. I think we should do that more. Halloween movies don't always have to be horror. Like, we can do other genres. Just give it that Halloween atmosphere. Game Night. This is probably my favorite comedy of the 2010s. I just love it. I think it's, if you think they don't make good comedies anymore, watch Game Night. Might change your mind. Gangs of New York, Martin Scorsese, never seen it. Gangster Squad, saw it in theaters. It's kind of fun. It's like, what if Goodfellas was like a corny little blockbuster? And I enjoy it. It's got a great cast. I mean, Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, Sean Penn, Josh Brolin. It's got an awesome cast. If you don't like it, even just for that, I don't know. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, pretty good. Pretty good little 50s comedy with Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell. Get Out. This movie just rocked the house when it came out. Man, did this movie make an impact. Blumhouse is probably still riding the coattails of this movie. It's a great film. I'm loving Jordan Peele's career, and that's what kicked it off. His directing career, that is, not comedy career. Get Shorty, one of the greatest comedies ever made. Gosh, I love this film. John Travolta and Gene Hackman. Wow, what an incredible movie. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Never seen it. I grew up with the original Ghost Rider, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't own it on Blu-ray, though, because it doesn't hold up at all for me. But I bought this because, like, I should finally see the sequel. Nicolas Cage, but I haven't. Ghostbusters. It's the only Ghostbusters I own. Kind of the only Ghostbusters I really care to own. It's the only one that I love. I think it's like a masterpiece, but I'm not like a big fan of the franchise overall. Ghost Watch. Wow, what an incredible found footage, mockumentary, really, horror film about ghosts. One of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Wow, I love this movie so much. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I bought this to watch it. David Fincher's remake of the Swedish film. I think it's Swedish. And it's pretty good. But I'm not like the biggest David Fincher guy, to be honest with you. Then The Girl with the Spider's Web. I bought this because Fede Alvarez made it. And I was able to get it dirt cheap. Fede Alvarez made the Evil Dead remake. I still haven't watched it. A lot of movies I haven't watched yet. But I don't feel bad about it because I've got my whole life to watch these movies. There's no rush, you know. I've got a lot of years ahead of me. Gladiator. Loved this movie when I was a kid. It was one of the first horror movies. No. One of the first R-rated movies my dad showed me. And we loved it together. The Godfather, of course, it's a great movie. Not like a personal favorite for me. I'm more of a Goodfellas guy, but The Godfather's great. I don't have The Godfather 2, though. Or 3. Good Boys. Kind of a fun little comedy. My wife and I enjoyed it when we saw it together in theaters. Goodfellas, one of the greatest movies ever made. Wow, do I love Goodfellas. My favorite Scorsese movie by a landslide. Good Will Hunting, one of my favorite dramas ever made. Oh my gosh, this movie it's so wildly entertaining, but also so emotionally powerful. This movie, I think, is particularly powerful if you are a young man. You know, I saw it around like 19, 20. That's the perfect age to see this movie. I think it speaks to that demographic, like young men, better than almost any other movie, like so perfectly. Like it just hit me. And Robin Williams' performance is incredible in it. The Goonies. Haven't seen this since I was a kid, actually, but you know, fun 80s movie. Do I have any more room to put stuff? I'm going to put that right there. That's not in the way. There we go. Okay, Gone Baby Gone. Speaking of Casey Affleck, actually, directed by Ben Affleck. Pretty good little thriller. Ben Affleck's directorial debut. Grand Budapest Hotel, probably my second favorite Wes Anderson movie. It was the first Wes Anderson movie I think I ever saw when it came out in theaters in 2014, and I love it. 2 spaghetti westerns, The Grand Duel and Keoma. I actually really like both of these, so this was a really good purchase. Blind bought them, and they turned out to be great. The Gremlins, or just Gremlins, sorry. Great movie. The Great Outdoors. I love this film. It's one of my favorite silly little 80s comedies with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. So rewatchable for me. Like if I just want to feel good, I'll just put on The Great Outdoors. It always does the trick. Greatest Showman. My wife and I had a great time when we saw this together in theaters and continue to have a great time whenever we rewatch it. Fantastic music in this. I'm starting to wonder, is this the last musical that'll have good music? Because I was just recently watching the Wonka remake and those songs are terrible. And I'm like, man, The Greatest Showman. Say what you will about the story, or the historical accuracy, my goodness, but the songs are incredible. Green Room recently got a 4K release, but I'm happy with the Blu-ray. I actually saw this in theaters and I really liked it. Very intense thriller horror film. Gretel and Hansel, saw this in the theater and did not love it. It's from the same director as The Black Coat's Daughter, but I bought it because I want to give it another chance. I want to rewatch it. It's the kind of atmosphere I love. Grizzly. This is basically Jaws, but with a bear. It's one of those like Jaws exploitation movies that came out in the 70s. Starring Christopher George. It's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun little movie. Wow, this is falling apart. Oh man, that sucks. I must have bought it like that. I would not have done that. Grosse Point Blank with John Cusack and Minnie Driver. Adorable, but also like really funny and kind of intense little movie too. This movie just got it all. It's a great time. Groundhog Day, one of the greatest movies ever made. Just said it. One of the greatest comedies ever made, starring Bill Murray. Groundhog Day is a masterpiece. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I did love Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I just haven't bought it because, like I said, I haven't bought a Marvel movie in forever. But this is the greatest Marvel trilogy. I love the Guardians films. Absolutely love them. The Guest. Wow, did this movie make an impact on me when it came out? I love The Guest so much. Incredible. This movie changes genre so many times. Starts out a drama. Becomes very funny. It's like a comedy. Then it becomes an action movie and a great one. And then it becomes a horror film by the end. And it just seamlessly transitions genres the whole way. And Dan Stevens is amazing in it. Halloween 4. I've got a few Halloween movies here that I don't have on boutique releases. But yeah, Halloween 4 is one of my favorites. Halloween 6, I love it too, particularly the producer's cut. Halloween H2O is a good time. It's fun. And Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I actually own Rob Zombie's Halloween on digital because I have the theatrical cut. I think the theatrical cut is much better. And it's really hard to get physically. So I have that digitally, but I have Halloween 2 on Blu-ray. And then I have Halloween 2018, and I should buy the next two in the David Gordon Green trilogy, but I haven't yet. But yeah, Halloween 2018 on 4K. Okay, I've got a few Hammer double packs here, all of which I now own in a collection that Mill Creek put out. That's like right over there. I'll get to it, but I don't know. I just love Hammer movies so much, and I think these are really cool. So this is Never Take Sweets from a Stranger and Scream of Fear. I particularly love Never Take Sweets from a Stranger. It's a brutally intense, dark film, and it's great. The Gorgon and Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll, both are great. And The Revenge of Frankenstein, which is great, and Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, which is pretty good. Hang 'em High. It's actually one of my favorite Clint Eastwood Westerns. I think it's fantastic. Underrated. Hannah, never seen it. Heard it's good. Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, really enjoy it. Ridiculous movie, but very much in the spirit of Evil Dead. Like if you like Evil Dead and you want to see kind of a more action-y version of it with a lot of practical effects, that's one thing that impressed me about this movie. I also went to see it in theaters completely expecting it to be a PG-13, like Marvel kind of movie. But it's rated R and it's a hard R for violence. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I was not expecting that. Happy Birthday to Me, 80s slasher movie. I can't believe I haven't watched this. I've owned it on Blu-ray forever. Gosh, I need to pop that in. Then we got the Happy Death Day movies. Love this one. Had such a great time with it and continue to on rewatches. And I really like this one too. It's not as good, but those are really fun movies. Really fun. Steven Seagal and Hard to Kill might be my favorite Steven Seagal movie. This movie's so much fun. Got great one-liners. Hard Target, really dig this movie. John Woo, Jean-Claude Van Damme, how can you not? Hatchet, fun movie. Much better than any of the sequels. That's my opinion. Hateful Eight, one of the greatest modern Westerns. One of my favorite Tarantino movies. I think this one's like underrated at this point. Incredible movie. Heat. This movie took me so many watches to get through it because it's like 3 hours. It's kind of slow. And the first several times I watched it, I was like, I'm not in the mood. This is too long. But when I finally watched it the whole way through, I did love it. It was worth it. It was worth the trip. Hellboy, love Hellboy 2. I want to see these movies this movie particularly, so bad when I was a kid. And I didn't think my parents would let me because the main hero is a demon. I thought my parents would be like against that, but they were not. It turns out they were like, yeah, you can watch that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I loved Hellboy 2 as well. In fact, I think it's even better. Great movies. Hellboy 2 is like the horror version of the story. Hellboy 2 is like the fantasy epic version of the story. And I actually ended up liking Hellboy 2 better. Hellfest on 4K, I already mentioned this, but it's a great movie at a Halloween theme park where a slasher killer is on the loose. Like Bloodfest is the comedy version. This is the serious version. I like the serious version better. Happy to have it on 4K. Hell or High Water, great film. Never rewatched it, but I saw it in theaters and I loved it and I bought it. No, I did rewatch it. I'm lying. I rewatched this. Yeah, it's a great movie. Hercules, not bad. Not bad. This is one I bought dirt cheap, used. A lot of these Blu-rays are like that. And I expected nothing from this movie with Dwayne Johnson's Hercules, and it's a lot better than I expected. It's just like a 90-minute exploitation action fantasy movie, like in the spirit of the 80s, and I dug it. Hereditary, incredible horror film, one of the scariest times I've ever had in a theater, and I love it. Love it. High Noon, one of the best Westerns. Phenomenal. Gary Cooper, what can you say? Hills Have Eyes, very good. Wes Craven movie, although I do prefer Last House on the Left. Maybe it's controversial. Here we got the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, which I like better. I'm a bigger fan of the remake. There you go. And then Hills Have Eyes Part 2 I've heard is horrible, but I have it because I have this double pack. Hitch. I loved this movie when I was a teenager, and it's very nostalgic for me. It's just comfort food. Will Smith, Kevin James, such a good time. Hondo, this is a great John Wayne 50s Western, actually. That movie really impressed me. Hook, very nostalgic for me. Not a movie I particularly love as an adult, to be honest with you, but very nostalgic about it. Hoosiers with Gene Hackman, still haven't watched it. I got it for $5 at a Big Lots, as you can see. I've heard it's great. Hot Fuzz, love the Cornetto trilogy. Simon Pegg. Gosh, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Great tribute to action movies. House of a Thousand Corpses. I've seen it several times, but since buying it on Blu-ray, I haven't actually opened it up. House of Wax, Return of the House on Haunted Hill, and Ghost Ship. I love House of Wax. Never seen. Kind of like Ghost Ship. Dark Castle movies. House on Sorority Row. Love this. One of my favorite 80s slasher movies. This is a Scorpion release of it. And I just put out a review of this. So if you're curious about my in-depth thoughts on that, you can check that out. And we got How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Underrated movie. Like, a lot of people treat this as just some dumb rom-com. I think it's really funny. Like, if you just want a funny comedy in general, I think this movie fits the bill. Okay, well, that's all those. Let me grab some more off the floor here. Okay, this is the kind of content you get when I do minimal editing. Okay, I'm going to need to move some stuff off of here. You guys having fun? You enjoying yourself? This is an epic video. That is for sure. Okay. How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Man, this is an amazing musical. 1960s musical. The songs are great. The production design is great. The lead performance is incredible. I can't really show this. Howl of the Devil, Monte Macabre release of a Paul Naschy movie. I still haven't actually seen the movie. Hulk. Loved this movie when I was a kid, but I always knew there's something weird about it, and there is. And I've been wanting to rewatch it as an adult, but I just remember it being so weird. I Feel Pretty is one of my wife's movies. She really enjoyed this in theaters. I don't think she's ever... I really learned to stop getting my wife movies she loves, because if it's not on streaming, she's probably not going to watch it. She's not going to put it in a Blu-ray. Not like I will. Idle Hands, really fun 1999 horror comedy. Devon Sawa. Into the Blue with Paul Walker and Jessica Alba. Actually not bad. Like, better than you would think. It's a pretty fun little seafaring adventure movie. Treasure hunting movie. In a Valley of Violence is a Ty West movie. He's currently, like, he finally made it big with, like, his X trilogy he's working on right now. But this is his attempt at a Western with Ethan Hawke and John Travolta, and it's actually great. I loved it. A lot of people didn't. I understand that, but I loved it. Inception, my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, and it ain't close. I think it's by far Christopher Nolan's best film. Independence Day, very nostalgic movie for me, 90s blockbuster. Inglourious Bastards, great Quentin Tarantino movie. Inner Space, one of my favorite Joe Dante movies. Super fun, 80s sci-fi adventure film with Dennis Quaid, Meg Ryan, Martin Short. What a cast. I love that movie. Inquisition is a Paul Naschy witch hunting film. Just recently got it. Haven't watched it yet. Insidious, really enjoyed this when it came out, and I like it better than The Conjuring. Upon rewatches, it's held up much better than The Conjuring has, possibly because it has more cool horror visuals, and I'm a very visual watcher with horror movies. I like visuals. Insomnia, this is a very good Christopher Nolan movie, actually. Pretty underrated little crime mystery murder thriller with Robin Williams and Al Pacino. Instant Family, I love this movie. My wife and I love this movie. It's just a really good movie about Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne adopting some kids and trying to learn how to be a family. And it's very heartwarming. Very, very heartwarming. Invisible Man, pretty great little update on the Universal Monsters with Elizabeth Moss, directed by Lee Winnell. Very good. Iron Man kicked off the MCU. Still a great movie. Iron Man 3, I guess I don't have Iron Man 2. I don't love it, so that's probably why. Iron Man 3 I actually think is kind of underrated. I actually think it's held up very well. It's a good Shane Black movie. Isn't It Romantic? Another one of my wife's favorite movies. Not one of her favorite movies, excuse me, but one of her movies. But this is before I learned, like, don't buy your wife movies that she likes. If it's not on streaming, she will not watch it. I did not grow up with this. Well, I walked in on my dad watching it one time, and it was kind of scary to me. But I watched it a few years ago for the first time in entirety, and I actually really like it as a 90s TV miniseries. I think it's pretty successful. But I love It Chapter 1. Did not love It Chapter 2, but so I don't have it. It Came from Outer Space. Really good 1950s sci-fi movie. It Follows, very, very good. This is one of those like indie horror movies that really made a splash back a few years ago and really, I feel like really kickstarted people being really into indie horror. And around this period, I very much was. That was a good time. It's a Wonderful Life on 4K, one of the greatest movies ever made, one of the greatest of all time. The Italian Job, I kind of liked this movie when I was a teenager, and I bought it to rewatch it, and I still haven't. But I remember liking it. It's kind of a funny story. Now, this one very much is one of my wife's favorite movies, and she actually has watched this Blu-ray, so how about that? I think I watched it with her, but I don't remember it very well. Not really one of my kind of movies. Jack Reacher, great Tom Cruise action movie. I think it holds up. I think the action rules. I think Tom Cruise's performance is great, even though I understand he's not much like the book character. Never read the books, but as a Tom Cruise action movie, it's darn successful. Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, didn't like this movie very much. No, I thought it was okay. Whatever. I like Chris Pine. Jackie Brown, this is one of my favorite Tarantino movies. I feel like I've said that about. I love all Tarantino's movies, and this one's fantastic. My James Bond collection. This has everything through Skyfall. But then I own Spectre separately, and I still haven't bought No Time to Die. But I love the James Bond movies all the way back to Sean Connery, Roger Moore, George Lazenby. I love the whole franchise very, very much. Jaws. My second favorite movie ever made. I love Jaws so much, but I still don't have it on 4K. I need to get the 4K, my goodness. But it's one of my favorite films. I've seen it in theaters like 3 times. It's one of those movies where like most of the time I rewatch it is when it gets another theatrical screening. I experience it on the big screen, and it's like a religious experience. Jennifer's Body, very good. 2000s horror movie. Very, very good, actually. Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise, good. I think it's funny that this movie a lot of times gets marketed as like an epic romance movie. Like the only scene people know from it is "You Had Me at Hello, You Complete Me," the epic love, like confessions of love scene. But it's really a sports drama first and foremost. Like the romance, I think that's on the back burner. Like this is a sports drama. So I think it's funny that it's very much known for the "You Complete Me" scene. But it's very good. John Wick. Love John Wick. Like I love this much more than the franchise as a whole because I didn't really care for 2 or 3, but I ended up really enjoying 4. It's just so long. I don't know if I would ever rewatch it, but just as a tight action experience that's simple, John Wick is pretty much perfect. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Where's the original Jumanji? Oh, I think it's with the kids movies. I separated the kids movies for my son. So they're like on the bottom shelf over there. I'll get to them. It's over there. But yeah, pretty fun. This is a pretty fun little update. Nowhere near the original, but pretty fun. Jurassic Park, one of the greatest movies ever made. Jurassic Park: The Lost World, pretty good sequel. Not great, but pretty good. I really like Jurassic World, actually. I think it's a very entertaining. It's just a monster movie. It's a good monster movie. But these are the only ones I care about. So those are the only ones that I own. Zack Snyder's Justice League, actually loved this movie. The DC universe has been real rocky, but I did love Zack Snyder's 4-hour epic Justice League. I thought it was worth the wait. And it's to date the only HBO Max movie that's gotten a release on physical media. So I'm happy to have it on 4K, but I wish HBO would get better about releasing their stuff on physical media. Karate Kid, great movie. Very nostalgic about it from my childhood. Kids on the Slope. I actually watched this on streaming back when I was kind of trying to get into anime, and I did enjoy it. It's about a jazz band, and I love jazz. It's got phenomenal jazz music in it. And a friend of mine bought it for me, and I still haven't opened it because I never rewatched it, and I don't know if I ever will, but I did enjoy my time with it. Kiki's Delivery Service is a Hayao Miyazaki film. Speaking of anime, I love Hayao Miyazaki, and this is a great movie, a great witch movie. Kill Bill and Kill Bill Volume 2. Great movies. Really, really like them. I like Kill Bill Volume 2 better. That is my opinion. Killzone. A friend of mine gave this to me. It's a Donnie Yen action movie, and I still haven't seen it. I don't watch as much action as I watch horror. You could probably tell from the channel. Kingsman: The Secret Service. Had a great time with this when I saw it in theaters. It's a very, very fun movie. Kiss of the Dragon. Pretty good Jet Li action movie from the 90s. I actually really like Jet Li a lot. And then we've got A Knight's Tale. Very nostalgic about this from my childhood as well. I had a great time with this back in the day, and I still really enjoy it. Rest in peace, Heath Ledger. This is just a really fun, just medieval knight fight movie. Great time. Knives Out. Fantastic mystery from Rian Johnson, Daniel Craig, and Anya de Armas are phenomenal in this movie. The whole cast is. My wife and I really love that movie. Kong Skull Island. It's actually my favorite of the whole legendary monsterverse. You know, the next Kong vs. Godzilla movie just came out. I'm as a whole not a big fan of that universe, but this is my favorite. I loved Kong Skull Island. I thought it was super fun. Really fun blockbuster. Krampus. This is a great Christmas horror movie. Love it. LA Confidential. I have seen it, but not since buying it have I rewatched it. And it is a very good period piece crime movie with a great cast from the 90s. It is the 90s, right? Pretty sure it's the 90s. Could be late 80s. La La Land. Very, very good. Modern musical. The music is not as great as I wish it was, but Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone's performances are fantastic and has a lot of great visuals. Lady Bird. This is a fantastic movie. Back when I used to watch like every Best Picture winner, I really don't anymore, but I used to, Best Picture nominee rather. But Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig's directorial debut, fantastic movie. Last Christmas, this is one of my wife's favorite movies. This is actually one she likes enough to watch on Blu-ray when every Christmas. She watches it every Christmas season, and it's decent. It's pretty good. Last House on the Left remake. I just recently bought this with the intention to watch it because I've always been curious about it. I love the original, though I don't own it. It's not a very rewatchable movie because it's very disturbing. But yeah, I want to check out. I got it really cheap, and I want to check out the remake. Last Night in Soho. Love this movie. One of my favorite Edgar Wright movies. I think it's so underrated. Happy to have it on 4K. Just, I love the 60s nostalgia of it, but also what it has to say about nostalgia. And I think as a horror movie, it's very successful. And I love Anya Taylor-Joy. She's one of my favorite modern working actors. Last Dragon, such a fun 80s action movie. My God, I love The Last Dragon. Yeah, it's just so satisfying, so fun. Laura, great noir film from the 1940s with Dana Andrews. Last Action Hero, pretty fun 90s action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I enjoy it. The Last Songs, one of my wife's movies. That's Miley Cyrus, I think. Legend of Billie Jean, fantastic. So underrated. I had this movie for years before I actually popped it in. Like, I don't know. I had no idea how good it was going to be. It's a great 80s teen movie, but in a very serious, intense way. Not like a high school comedy. Certainly not. Lethal Weapon, great action movie. What can you say? I still haven't seen the whole franchise, though. Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Lucio Fulci Giallo from Mondo Macabro. Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man. I've still never seen this movie, actually. This is a Raro video release. Pretty cool. It's one of those Italian police thrillers from the 70s. What a title, right? Spaghetti Western double feature. I think I got this at like a Dollar Tree or something. I still haven't watched it. The Last Gun and $4 of Revenge. So I've not seen those. Last Starfighter is one of my favorite 80s sci-fi movies. So much fun. This movie is such a blast. Little Nikita, never seen it. It's a River Phoenix movie with Sidney Poitier. Leatherface, this is the only Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie I haven't seen. So heard it's bad, but I have it when I eventually want to complete that. Let Me In and Let the Right One In. So vampire movies. This is the classic Swedish original. This is the American remake. Really like this one. Never seen the remake, but I intend to watch it because I've heard it's one of those really good remakes. Logan. People love this movie. I liked this movie. Okay. I didn't think it was that great, honestly, like a lot of other people did, but I have it. Long Kiss Goodnight, great 90s action movie. Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis, so good. Rennie Harlin's another Rennie Harlin one. Long Shot, very good romantic comedy with Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen. Better than you think it is. I thought it was great. Another Rian Johnson film, Looper, really, really interesting sci-fi movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis. Great time travel movie. Lords of Salem, absolutely love this. It's my favorite Rob Zombie movie. I think it's just such a successful, scary, visually gorgeous witch movie. I think it's very creepy. The Lost Boys, one of the best vampire movies. Not as good as Fright Night. Not as good as Fright Night, but still good. Really enjoy it. Love, Simon. This is a very good teen dramedy that my wife and I both really love. She read the book. It's based on a book, apparently. And this is a very good feel-good comfort movie. Magic Mike. I blind bought this because I heard it's great. And you know what? It's pretty good. I've now seen Magic Mike and Magic Mike 2. And, for movies about male strippers, they're not bad. They're not bad. Magnolia, I think this is the only Paul Thomas Anderson movie I still haven't seen. No, this and Hard 8. And I don't know, I own it, so I should check it out, but I'm not the biggest PTA guy in general. I think that's what's held me back. The Majestic, I really like this. It's a Jim Carrey drama that's very much trying to be a Frank Capra movie. And much like The Family Man, I think it's pretty successful, and I really like Jim Carrey's performance in it. Malignant. I absolutely love Malignant. This is one of my favorite recent horror movies. My favorite James Wan movie, because unlike a lot of his other movies, man, this movie goes for it. It's so crazy. Like, it just feels like those weird movies from the 80s that I love so much. Mama, I saw this movie back in the day and I thought it was okay. It's a 2010s horror movie. And I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about it. So I thought I should give that another chance. So I bought it, but I haven't given it another chance yet. This is a Mill Creek Westerns double pack. The Man from the Alamo is a great movie with Glenn Ford. And They Came to Cordura is not a great movie. It's got Gary Cooper and Rita Hayworth. Despite that star power, it's a pretty miserable movie to watch. It's very unpleasant. Man of Steel, it's okay. It kicked off the DC universe and it's fine. The Man Who Knew Too Much, Alfred Hitchcock movie, very good. Really, I saw that recently and I very much enjoyed it. The Man with No Name trilogy, or also called the Dollars trilogy from Sergio Leone. So in this, we've got The Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Mandy, I love Mandy. I actually got to see this in theaters when it came out, which was really cool. This kind of kicked off the new career for Nicolas Cage, where he's just going to be cast in great, weird genre movies and horror movies. And I love that phase of his career. I guess Mom and Dad maybe kicked it off, but that one, like, for sure. David Cronenberg's The Maps to the Stars. I've not heard this is good, but it was a Dollar Tree pickup, and it is a Cronenberg movie. So I am right about that, right? Wow, it's really stuck in the slipcover there. Yeah, I'm pretty positive. It's a David Cronenberg. Yeah, it says so on the front. Anyway, let's move on. Marked to Death, another really fun Steven Seagal action movie. It's also got Danielle Harris. It's directed by Dwight H. Little, who did Halloween 4. I really enjoy it. A lot of good one-liners in that one, too. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, not a great movie. Not as good as Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is Kenneth Branagh version, but very interesting and very faithful to the book. Not 100%, but closer than any other adaptation I've ever seen. Mask of Zorro is one of my favorite movies of all time. One of the greatest swashbucklers ever made. Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, Catherine Zeta-Jones. What a great, fun, romantic action-adventure movie. That's just everything I want out of that genre. Meet Earl and the Dying Girl. An okay teen drama. It didn't hold up for me on a rewatch. Memento, very good Christopher Nolan movie. A little murder thriller told out of order. Miami Vice. This is a pretty fun Michael Mann movie. Action drama. It's kind of the drama stuff that works better for me than the action stuff in that movie. Midsommar. Saw this in theaters, absolutely loved it. Ari Aster's folk horror movie. Haven't rewatched it on Blu-ray yet. Still on the plastic wrapping, but I do want to rewatch that. It's just very long. Miracle on 34th Street. Great Christmas movie. I think we all know that. Chuck Norris Missing in Action. Still haven't watched it. I like Chuck Norris movies, but I haven't checked that one out yet. Mission Impossible Collection. This has got the first one through Rogue Nation. I'm a big fan of the Mission Impossible series. And I do here have Mission Impossible Fallout on 4K, which was amazing. And I still haven't seen the most recent one. I know, guys. I'm terrible. The Monster Squad. Fun movie. Just got released on 4K. I don't think I love it enough to upgrade it, but I like it. Mortuary. This is a Tobe Hooper movie. That's the entire reason I bought it, because I like Tobe Hooper. Still have not watched it. Heard it was bad, but I don't know. It's Tobe Hooper, so I'll check it out one day. Moulin Rouge. I actually loved this movie when I was a teenager. It's very just loud and weird and crazy. Baz Luhrmann movie with Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman. I've not rewatched it since high school. But one of these days. Mrs. Doubtfire, pretty fun comedy with Robin Williams. Not a top favorite for me personally. Much Ado About Nothing. This is actually the only Shakespeare that I've seen all the way through. I'm not really a Shakespeare guy, but this is the original script from William Shakespeare, but told in a modern way. Joss Whedon actually did this. He did it right after he did The Avengers. I almost forgot The Avengers. And I actually love it. I think it's terrific. Yeah, for not being a Shakespeare guy, I thought it was fantastic. The Mummy Collection. This is The Mummy. The Mummy Returns. Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and the Scorpion King. Steel book. I really like that first one. The rest of them, I haven't seen in a very long time, so I'm not really sure. Tom Cruise, The Mummy, a terrible movie. I bought it to check it out because I like mummy movies, and it was awful. The Mummy's Revenge, probably my least favorite Paul Naschy movie, which makes me sad to say. It's just kind of boring. And Paul Naschy movies, they're just usually more interesting than that. Murder Rock, Lucio Fulci movie, have not seen it yet. My Bloody Valentine 3D, okay, not anywhere near as good as the original My Bloody Valentine. My Cousin Vinny, fantastic movie with Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei. And I've heard a lot of lawyers say that this is actually one of the most accurate lawyer movies ever made, despite being a comedy, which I think is pretty cool. Near Dark, really, really great vampire movie from Catherine Bigelow from the 80s. One of my favorite vampire movies from that decade, for sure. Probably, well, I put it on a list. I did a list of my favorite 80s vampire movies. It's on the channel. Neighbors and Neighbors 2. These are pretty fun comedies. I like them. Neverending Story. I didn't grow up with this one. I actually saw it for the first time fairly recently, and I thought it was pretty good. Good enough to own. The New Kids. This is an amazing 80s teen movie that just gets way more intense than you'd ever imagine. It's from director Sean S. Cunningham, who did Friday the 13th. And it's way better than Friday the 13th. Like, it's good. The Nice Guys, definitely one of my favorite modern comedies. I think it's Ryan Gosling's best performance. I'm going to stake that claim right here. Night of the Living Dead. This is the remake from 1990. Just recently bought this because I've always wanted to see it and never have. So I will check out the remake for Night of the Living Dead. I like the original. I've heard the remake is very good. Night Visitors, a Scorpion releasing Blu-ray. This is basically Fright Night, but if your neighbor was a Satan worshiper instead of vampires. It doesn't deliver on the Satan stuff, the devil horror, as much as I would have liked it to, but I do like it. It has a great supporting cast. Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal. Very good movie. Sadly, this is all I have for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. This franchise deserves so much better. Should have a nice thick box release. Should be on 4K. Great franchise. The first one's one of my favorite movies of all time, particularly. Head and shoulders above the sequels for me. But yeah, this is the only way you can buy them all in Blu-ray right now. It's very sad. Very sad. Double pack of Ninja and Ninja 2, a couple of direct-to-video Scott Adkins action movies. I have seen them both. I just since buying them on Blu-ray. I think somebody might have gave it to me. Anyway, I haven't rewatched them, but my hot take is I like the first Ninja better than the second one. I doubt there's many people out there that have an opinion on that. But for those who do, it seems to be a hot take. Ninochka, very good. Ernst Lubitsch, romantic comedy from the 40s. I think it's fantastic. Love that movie. Greta Garbo, Melvin Douglas. I'm going to scoot that over a little bit. No Country for Old Men, great Coen Brothers movie. Won Best Picture, rightfully so. Nonstop with Liam Neeson. I like it better than Taken. It's Liam Neeson fighting bad guys on a plane. It's very intense. Saw it in the theaters. It was a great experience. The Northman on 4K. Saw this in the theaters. I haven't rewatched it on 4K yet, but I love Robert Eggers, and this was a really good fantasy Viking action revenge movie. Great stuff. The Nude Vampire. Put it on, and I don't know. I'm not into genre, and it was a little artsy for me, and I didn't finish it, but maybe one of these days. Ocean's 11, pretty good 2000s movie. Update on the Frank Sinatra movie. Offerings, this is a regional 80s slasher movie that's not bad. Kind of a Halloween ripoff, but it's decent. Man, getting thirsty. That's a lot of talking. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's got like 2 front covers. That's like the cover for the basic people. That's the cover for the real film fans. Love this movie. It's starting to become my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. Gosh, I just love it so much. Once Upon a Time in the West, in the running for the greatest Western ever made, Sergio Leone. Holy cow, that movie's great. Van Damme double feature, The Order and Nowhere to Run. Never seen The Order still, but Nowhere to Run's one of my favorite Van Damme movies, and I actually have an original one sheet of it on my wall here in the basement. So you know I love that movie. The Orphanage, I named this on my channel as the greatest haunted house movie ever made, and I think I'd stand by it. It's incredibly emotionally powerful, but also scary, and you just can't get better than that for a haunted house movie. Ouija, Origin of Evil, Mike Flanagan, actually a really good sequel. I never saw the first Ouija, heard it was terrible, but Mike Flanagan came in, made another one, and he did a really good job. It's a Buster Keaton movie, Our Hospitality. A friend of mine gave this to me. I still haven't watched it, but I do like Buster Keaton silent movies. Over the Top, pretty fun Cannon Stallone movie about him bonding with his son. I enjoy it. Overboard, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. Very nostalgic about this movie. Loved it as a kid. Still love it now. One of the great rom-coms. And come on, I mean, how can Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn not be great together? They've been together in real life for forever now. The Package, direct-to-video action movie. Still haven't seen it. I don't know. I like Dolph Lundgren. I got it dirt cheap. Paper Towns, another John Green adaptation. So my wife loves this one, and I like it. I think it's fun. The Patriot on 4K. This is actually the first R-rated movie I ever saw. The first one my parents let me see. And it is pretty fun. I kind of wish they'd make movies like this still. Movies that are like historical epics, but not super serious, that are still like popcorn movies. You know, it's kind of like this weird middle ground that doesn't exist anymore. But I like The Patriot. Patriot Games, probably my favorite Jack Ryan movie. That might be a hot take. I think it is a hot take, but I really like it. I think it's the only R-rated one too. I wonder if that has something to do with it. The violence. I don't know. A Perfect World, great Clint Eastwood movie starring Kevin Costner, about him as a criminal who also bonds with this kid. Kind of a surrogate father movie. Perks of Being a Wallflower. If you were a teenager around the time this came out, which was in 2012, I just graduated high school. You know about this movie. This movie was big with teens at that time. The Phantasm Collection. I'm very happy to have this. I love the first 2 Phantasm movies. I like the third one okay. I still haven't seen 4 or 5, but I need to pop them in because those first 2 Phantasm movies are awesome. Absolutely awesome. Okay, where are we going? Pet Cemetery. Oh my gosh, this probably is my favorite Stephen King movie. I love the book. The movie's very different, but I still really love it. It makes a very disturbing story more palpable. More of a popcorn movie, which maybe it shouldn't be, but I don't know. It works for me. The Phantom. This is a fun Billy Zane movie. A lot of people make fun of it just because Billy Zane's in purple spandex. It's a very comic book accurate costume, but I don't know. Look past that. The movie itself is actually really fun. Phantom Thread, my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I thought it was really great, very beautiful and very kind of disturbing, but in an interesting way. Piranha. I've seen the Joe Dante original. I've still not seen the remake, but I do want to watch it. Pirates of Blood River. I actually have this in another Hammer collection, but I got a duplicate here. I love this. One of my favorite classic pirate movies, and Hammer did a darn good job. Christopher Lee is amazing as the main pirate villain. Planet of the Vampires, Mario Bava. Kind of a boring movie, but very influential. Very influential in Star Trek for sure. But not one of my favorite Bava movies by any means. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Absolutely love this movie. It meant so much to me when I was a kid. And I love the whole franchise. Well, I love most of the movies overall. Well, so a few. I don't own any of them. I just have this first one. And I think it's an amazing swashbuckler. Planet of the Apes Legacy Collection. This has all the original Planet of the Apes movies. I'm a big fan of the franchise overall. They're all pretty great, except maybe the second one. But I love the original series. And then I have Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War of the Planet of the Apes. These two I think are incredible. This one I thought was pretty good. But a new Planet of the Apes movie is coming out soon, and that should be interesting. That's such an interesting franchise that's been going on ever since the 60s. And it's never really died off. Point Break, one of the best action movies ever made. Catherine Bigelow, so good. Poltergeist 2 and 3. I don't know. I didn't have a strong opinion on these movies, to be honest. Maybe I should rewatch them, but I love the first Poltergeist. Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. Great comedy with Andy Samberg. Just so funny. Ridiculously funny movie. The Postman Always Rings Twice. This is a classic noir film that I've never seen. It's one of the biggest noir classics I still haven't watched with John Garfield and Lana Turner. I just recently bought this like a few months ago, so I need to watch it. The Possession of Joel Delaney. A subscriber sent this to me. This is an imprint release. I don't know very much about this. I know it is Shirley MacLaine though, and I'm interested to check it out for sure. Predator, one of the greatest action movies of all time. Absolutely love Predator. Predestination, actually a very interesting, trippy sci-fi movie with Ethan Hawke from a few years ago. I do recommend it. Again, if you want something very different. The Prestige, I've seen this movie a couple of times, but I haven't taken the plastic off since I bought it. And it's a pretty good movie. I don't love it like a lot of people do. I just find the twist so obvious. First time I saw it, I was like, well, duh. Like, obviously that was what's going on. And a lot of the movie rides on delivering a really mind-blowing twist. And it was just not mind-blowing for me at all. Like, I was like, yeah, I have eyes. I can tell. Anyway, Pride and Prejudice. I think this movie is incredible. Like, oh my God. One of the most visually beautiful movies I've ever seen. Just such a great romantic period piece film. I don't care if you say Pride and Prejudice is for girls. I say, shut up. Mr. Darcy is awesome. I stand that dude. And Pride and Prejudice is a great film. Nicolas Cage and Primal, another direct-to-video Nick Cage movie I was kind of interested in, but I haven't watched it. Princess Bride, classic, one of the best ever made. Loved it ever since I was a kid. Princess Mononoke, one of the best Miyazaki films. This is like one of my favorite adventure war films ever made, and it's an animated film from Japan, and it's amazing. Prisoners, another Denis Villeneuve film. Love this movie when I saw it in theaters. I don't know when I'll ever rewatch it, to be honest, but it was a very impactful experience when I saw it. And The Prodigy, a recent horror movie I blind bought and did not think was terribly good. It's a creepy kid movie, and it's okay. All right. We're doing pretty good on time right now. We're kind of flying through these. The Protector. This is a Tony Jaa action film, and I didn't think it was very good. I didn't like it very much. But I think I watched the extended cut, and I think I heard that was a mistake. Okay, Pulp Fiction, in the running with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. Just a mind-blowingly great, entertaining movie. Gosh, what a classic. Okay, weird random 3-pack. Punisher Warzone, actually a very fun Punisher movie. Red Heat, not one of my favorite Schwarzenegger movies by any means. I don't think it's that good. And Terminator 2, I have its own standard release of that. So I don't just have that in a 3-pack. Puppet Master, I need to watch this because I've been recently starting to get into full moon movies, but I've still never seen a Puppet Master movie. So I need to watch this one. Purple Rain, oh man, I've owned this movie for so many years. I still haven't watched it, but I do like Prince, so I need to give that a chance. The Quest, not a very good Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. He actually directed this movie. He's probably in over his head. I don't think it's very good. Rad, fun 80s movie about BMX racing. It's a good time. The Raid Redemption and The Raid 2. I've still never seen the first Raid, but I actually saw The Raid 2 when it came out in theaters, I think because a friend wanted to see it. And I didn't love it, but it was the first movie like this that I'd ever seen, and I'd never seen the first one. So I wanted to give it a second chance, and with watching the original The Raid. Raising Arizona. Great Coen Brothers movie with Nicolas Cage. I love Nicolas Cage. Can you tell? He's come up a lot. I own a lot of Nick Cage movies. He's probably my favorite working actor that's still working. Nick Cage, probably my favorite. Ran, Akira Kurosawa. I need to see it. I've seen a lot of Kurosawa movies. I really like a lot of them, but I still never seen that one. Rave is a Horror Pack exclusive in the recent Horror Pack that I got. Rasputin the Mad Monk, really good Hammer movie with Christopher Lee giving a great performance and Barbara Shelley giving a great performance as well. Love her in movies like Prince of Darkness, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and The Gorgon. And she's great in this movie. One of her best. This is a Ray Harryhausen collection. So this has got The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. I really like those original Sinbad movies. And also has Jason the Argonauts, which I quite enjoy as well. Ready or Not, really fun recent horror movie, kind of a horror comedy, but takes itself seriously enough, I think. Reanimator. I just have the Reanimator like this. I don't have a big box Arrow release or anything like that, but fantastic. Stuart Gordon, H.P. Lovecraft film. How can you not love Reanimator? Red Riding Hood, pretty decent little fairy tale telling of the story. The visuals are beautiful and the villain stuff is great. There's just a love triangle in here I don't care about at all, and I wish they would have handled that better. Reservoir Dogs, good Tarantino movie. It's very far down my ranking. I just think he just got a lot better at this with experience. Return of the Living Dead, it's a duplicate. I have it on 4K, but it's one of my favorites. Rush Hour, decent Jackie Chan movie. Revenge, don't like it very much. Tony Scott movie with Kevin Costner. I blind bought it and I was not a big fan. It's very mean-spirited in a way that it rubbed me the wrong way. Rio Bravo, one of the greatest Westerns of all time. Actually recently came out in 4K and I still haven't bought it, partially because it has no special features and it had no slipcover. I do like slipcovers. I'm sorry, guys. I do, but I should get the 4K. Road Warrior, second Mad Max movie. Phenomenal 80s action movie. I just love it. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. This is a duplicate. I have the Arrow 4K, so I don't know why I still have that. I think it's because the Arrow release only comes with the 4K, and this is the Blu-ray, and I wanted to have both. That's why I kept it. It makes sense. Robin Hood with Russell Crowe, better than you think. Not a bad movie. I actually really enjoyed it. It's Ridley Scott. It's very different. It's not much of anything like a Robin Hood movie, but taken as its own thing, it's actually really good. RoboCop, one of the greatest movies of all time. Full stop. One of the most perfect movies of all time. School of Rock, very fun and uplifting, heartwarming teacher movie starring Jack Black. I mean, that'll just put a smile on your face. Scrooge, I don't really like this movie. It's Italian with a Christmas Carol from Bill Murray. It's directed by Richard Donner, actually, who's a great director, but I just find it really ugly and mean-spirited and that's not what I want from a Christmas Carol. I don't like it. I don't really buy Bill Murray's turn at the end of that movie either. I'm like, you're still a bad guy. Like, I don't believe you. Here is a Westerns triple pack. The Searchers is incredible. Wild Bunch, I'm not a big fan of. A lot of people love the Wild Bunch. It's not one of my favorites. And I've never seen How the West Was Won, but The Searchers is incredible. Let's see. We've got The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Pretty good movie with Ben Stiller. I think it's kind of a remake of a old movie that I've never seen. Seeking a Friend for the Edge of the World. I blind bought this dirt cheap at a pawn shop and was not a big fan of it. It's about the end of the world and it's unpleasant. You might think it looks like it might be fun, but it's really not. Selma, incredible movie about Martin Luther King Jr. This movie just kind of rocked me emotionally when I saw it in theaters. Never rewatched this since I got on Blu-ray. To be honest with you, I don't know if I ever will because it's just a very heavy drama, but it was very impactful in the theater. Shape of Water, one of my favorite movies of all time. Gosh, I love this film. Just the movie Guillermo del Toro was put on this earth to make. A monster, romance, fantasy, beautiful movie. Gosh, I just love it. Sharky's Machine, very fun Burt Reynolds movie. I think he directed this, didn't he? I want to say Burt Reynolds directed this film. I cannot find it anywhere. So we're just going to guess that Burt Reynolds also directed this, but I could be wrong. But I love that movie. Shaun of the Dead, Cornetto trilogy, fantastic. Probably my least favorite of the Cornetto trilogy, controversially enough. I think they got better as they went, but I do really like Shaun of the Dead. Another Steelbook, Shawshank Redemption. Come on, just one of the most uplifting movies ever made. Everybody knows that movie's great. Shazam. I really like this movie, but the trailers for the second one I thought were so annoying. I don't ever want to watch this again because I never saw the second one because I just thought the marketing was just so obnoxious. The Shining. Come on. Great movie. I think I do like Dr. Sleep better though. I know, but it is a great movie. Shoot 'em Up. Never seen it. Always wanted to see it when I was a kid. So I bought it, but I still haven't seen it. Short Term 12. This is an incredibly emotionally impactful drama with Brie Larson. I think it's a bummer. Brie Larson's not bad in the Marvel movies, but I just wish she didn't get sucked into that whole machine because she's just better than that. And she was amazing in this movie. And I'm starting to wonder, like, are we going to get any more great Brie Larson movies, or is she just stuck in the Marvel machine now and just can't get out? I don't know. I hope she gets out because she is a fantastic actress. One of my favorites that are working right now, but not in the Marvel movies, really. Shutter Island. Still never seen it. This is a movie my wife loves, but I think one reason I haven't seen it is I know the twist. I just cultural osmosis. I know how it ends, but I need to watch it anyway. Sinister, very scary to me when I saw this in theaters. Not one I rewatch very much, but it did really scare me when I first saw it. Silver Linings Playbook. I really love this movie, to be honest with you. David O. Russell film. This is where Jennifer Lawrence won an Oscar. Well deserved. She was great in it. Just a great feel-good romantic comedy about broken people who find each other and find happiness through that. And I just think it's kind of beautiful. The Sixth Sense. I haven't seen this since I was like a teenager, I think. I bought it with the intention to rewatch it. I still have it, but I want to watch it again because I did really love it back in the day. Slow West. This is actually a pretty good modern Western with Michael Fassbender. I enjoyed it. Species. Not very good, but I own it. It's not very good. Spectre. I like this movie better than most people. I know it falls apart a bit towards the end, but there's a lot of good stuff in here as a Bond film. It's a very satisfying Bond movie for me. Subspecies. Really enjoy it, but not as much as 2 and 3, which I don't have on Blu-ray yet, but I need to get a hold of them. Sunset Boulevard. Classic Billy Wilder movie. Great film. Absolutely fantastic. Sunshine. Didn't really like this one. It's a Danny Boyle movie, and I thought it was okay. Smokey and the Bandit, more Burt Reynolds. Love this film. The only reason Smokey and the Bandit was not the most popular, highest grossing film of its year is because Star Wars came out that year. But it's just mind blowing to know just how massive a hit Smokey and the Bandit was. Like, only not the biggest movie of the year because of a little film called Star Wars. Snatchers. This is actually a great modern horror comedy about a teenage girl who gets pregnant with a monster. And it's really fun and really funny, actually. I think it's fantastic. Snow White and the Huntsman. Never seen it. Kind of interested in fairy tale telling, so that's why I bought it. Soul Survivor. This is a great underrated 80s horror movie. It's kind of the prototype for Final Destination, but it's better than any of the Final Destination movies. I think it's pretty amazing. Sorcerer. This is one of the most popular William Friedkin movies, and I still haven't seen it. I heard this Blu-ray is way out of print, and I'm like very lucky to have it. So I need to take advantage of that Blu-ray and watch it. Source Code. This is a pretty good action movie from, I think, 2011 with Jake Gyllenhaal. I enjoyed that when I first saw it. Speed with Keanu Reeves. One of the best action movies. Just so much fun. One of the rare action movies my wife actually loves. Spectacular Now. This is a very good teen romance drama with Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, kind of before they were both big, as I think it's fair to say they're big now. And this is actually a very good movie. Okay, we're getting into the Spider-Man movies. So we got original Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. These are two of the most important movies in my life. I just love them so much. And I like Spider-Man 3 as well, especially for nostalgia reasons. And then we got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's a great animated film. Really loved it. Spider-Man Homecoming. Actually, on rewatch, this movie got better for me. I actually think it's pretty successful. Spider-Man Far From Home. Entertaining enough. Decent. I like Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Spider-Man No Way Home on 4K. Really enjoyed this movie. Just had a great time with it in the theater. I think pretty much everybody did. Okay, that's all the Spider-Man movies. And Spirited Away, my favorite Hayao Miyazaki movie. Maybe my favorite animated movie of all time. I just think it's incredible. Split. Pretty good M. Night Shyamalan movie. I liked it enough. Okay, now we're getting into the Star Trek movies. So we got Star Trek The Motion Picture. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's one of the best blockbusters ever made. Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, underrated. Really like it. Star Trek IV, well rated. It's great. Everybody knows it. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, also underrated. I love the original Star Trek movies, and I think it's pretty fun. I actually don't have The Undiscovered Country because I bought most of these at Big Lots and dirt cheap, and they didn't have Star Trek VI, but I do love Star Trek VI, so I need to get it, or just get the 4K collection at this point, honestly. Star Trek from 2009, loved it when it came out. Less of a fan now, to be honest. It's so fast paced and crazy. And I just kind of want Star Trek to just like slow down, give me a more interesting story, calm down. I actually think Star Trek Into Darkness might actually be better. And a lot of people hate that, but I like that it's a more interesting character movie for Kirk. It's a more interesting story, I think, partially because they took a lot of it from the original Star Trek series, but it's got some bad stuff towards the end, but and some of the action sequences are actually really great. I just like that it's a little bit slower paced. And Star Trek Beyond, I actually love. I think it's the best of those modern Star Trek movies. Okay, that's all the Star Trek. Then we've got Star Wars. Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith. I've actually come to enjoy these movies more with age, which I know is unusual because when I was a kid, I actually liked them less. But these are two of the greatest movies ever made. Like, they'd both be in my top 20 of all time. The original Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. Unbelievably great films. And I really like Return of the Jedi too. I don't love it as much, but I really enjoy that too. We got the sequel trilogy, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. I won't say too much because I know they're very controversial, but I like them. I like that trilogy. I'm just a big Star Wars fan, and I don't get all angry about Star Wars like a lot of people do. And I really like Solo too. Like, just taken on its own, it's a really fun, just action adventure movie from a really good director, Ron Howard. Stardust, this is an incredible adventure movie. I just love it so much. It's based on Neil Gaiman book, and the movie is better than the book. One of those rare cases. Stone Cold, really fun 90s action movie I love this director, Craig R. Baxley. He also made Action Jackson. He's great. Stranger Than Fiction. This is actually a really good dramedy with Will Ferrell and Maggie Gyllenhaal. It's also a self-improvement movie. And like I said, I'm very much a mark for self-improvement films. They really resonate with me. And I really love the romance between Will Ferrell and Maggie Gyllenhaal. It just really works for me. Here is a 4-pack of beach movies from like the 80s. So we got Private Resort, not very good. Hard Bodies, ridiculous and insane, but kind of fun. And I haven't seen Perfect or Spring Break yet. There you go. Sunrise. This is a silent film. It's a Eureka release. And it's from F.W. Murnau, who also made Nosferatu. Haven't seen it yet. That was a gift from a friend. Superman the movie. And I also have this Superman collection that has the first movie through Superman Returns. Suspiria, the remake. I have the original with a boutique release, so I'll get to that. But I actually really liked the remake. Nowhere near as good as the original, but I liked it. Stir of Echoes, that's a great Kevin Bacon haunted house movie. Really loved it. Straw Dogs, a Sam Peckinpah movie. Heard this movie is very disturbing about some very difficult subject matter, so I have not watched it yet. I have heard it's great, but I don't know. I've not been in that kind of mood to watch something so dreary and disturbing. Sudden Death, great Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Super fun hockey movie. This is basically an example of Jean-Claude Van Damme not making a martial arts movie, but just making like a normal 90s action movie. Like, a little bit more like Speed than like, Bloodsport, but very successful. It was a very successful experiment for him. Suitable Flesh. This is a pretty good recent H.P. Lovecraft movie, directed by Joe Lynch. And it's not great, but I did enjoy it. Taken, I don't know. It's pretty good. I'm not the biggest Taken guy, to be honest with you. Tales of Halloween, really enjoy this. It's a horror anthology film. All the movies, the segments take place on Halloween night, and it's a good time. Talladega Nights, actually a pretty funny comedy. I actually saw this for the first time fairly recently, and yeah, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Actually, it was pretty good. And we got Taxi Driver, a great movie. I kind of hate this release. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. I think it might be on 4K, but I think just in some giant collection. I don't know. I should get it on 4K when it gets a decent release because I'm just kind of sick of this thing. Okay, grabbing this down here. And we have got The Terminator. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. I think it's one of the best movies of the 80s. Holy cow, The Terminator rules. And I like Terminator 2 as well. Although, hot take, I think the original is way better. But I do like the second one. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, I still just have this little release. I haven't gotten any of the recent like fancy 4K releases or anything. And I probably should. But yeah, it's a great 70s horror film. What can you say? One of the biggest classics. That Thing You Do. This is actually one of my favorite movies. Really underrated little music. It's a comedy about a one-hit wonder band in the 60s, directed by Tom Hanks, and it's phenomenal. Them, really fun 50s sci-fi movie, creature feature about giant ants. There's Something About Mary, pretty funny comedy with Ben Stiller and Cameron Diaz. Really crazy, really wild movie. Speaking of wild, They Came Together. This is a spoof of rom-coms. It's so funny. Like, it is one of the most ridiculous, hilarious movies I've like ever seen, starring Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler and tons of other people. Like, everyone in this movie is somebody you recognize. Very weird movie, which is why it didn't get much of a release when it came out, because it's too weird for most people, but I loved it. Thor movies. So Thor, it's okay. Thor the Dark World, it's pretty bad. Thor Ragnarok, it's pretty fun. Although Thor Love and Thunder almost made me rethink, was this actually that good? Because Thor Love and Thunder was terrible. 3 Billboards Across Ebbing, Missouri. I don't know when I'll ever rewatch this movie, but it was a very impactful experience in the theater. I really enjoyed it. By the way, I live in Missouri. There is no such thing as Ebbing, Missouri. It's a fake town. The more you know. Titane. Just recently got this in a horror pack, and I need to watch it. I've heard it's a really weird, kind of disturbing French horror movie, but I've heard it's quite good. Torture Garden. I actually just put out a review of this. This is one of the Amicus Anthology horror films because I'm doing a review series on this whole series of films. And Torture Garden is definitely not one of the best, but it has its moments. So check out my review for more info. Total Recall. Very good Schwarzenegger, Paul Verhoeven action movie. The Towering Inferno. One of those 70s disaster movies. Great cast. It's starring Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. Very long, but very good. The Town, Ben Affleck directed heist movie. Actually really good. I really like The Town. The Transporter, starring Jason Statham. I haven't seen this since I was a kid, but I remember I enjoyed it back in the day. Good action movie to me then, at least. Trick or Treat, otherwise known as Ragman. This is a like German Blu-ray, I think, because it's never gotten a legitimate release over here in the States. It's supposed to very soon, but it's a really good heavy metal 1980s Halloween horror movie, and I really, really like it. True Grit. Yeah, pretty good Coen Brothers Western. Twister, one of my wife's favorite movies, actually. She introduced it to me, and it's really fun 90s blockbuster with Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt. It's a great time. Unbreakable, probably my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie. Really impactful film. Under Siege with Steven Seagal, definitely one of his best movies. Really, really good time. Under the Skin. I don't know when I'll ever rewatch this. It's still in the plastic, but I did watch it around the time that it came out originally. And it's a very disturbing, artsy alien movie. And it really impacted me. It really unsettled me. Very scary movie. But I don't know when I'll rewatch it or tear that plastic off. The Underworld 5-film collection. I've never seen an Underworld movie. I bought this with the intentions to finally watch the Underworld movies. I still haven't. I still have not. Double pack of The Unforgiven and The Outlaw Josie Wales. Very good movies. Very good Clint Eastwood Westerns for sure. And Universal Soldier on 4K. Another very good Jean-Claude Van Damme movie with Dolph Lundgren. Roland Emmerich movie. Yeah, it's, not one of his best movies, not one of Van Damme's best movies, but definitely a very fun time. More Universal Soldier movies. I've got Universal Soldier Regeneration and Day of Reckoning. These are direct-to-video sequels. Really didn't like this one. This one's really weird and interesting, honestly. Very different than a direct-to-video Universal Soldier sequel you'd think it would be. Almost David Lynchian. Unleashed, never seen this movie. It's a Jet Li action film. The Untouchables, never been a big fan of this one, actually. It's Brian De Palma, Kevin Costner, Robert De Niro. I feel like I should love it, and I just don't quite. Up in the Air, this is a really good George Clooney drama from a few years ago. Us, really like this. This is Jordan Peele's follow-up to Get Out, and it's actually really, really good. Very weird, the twist. Didn't work for me the first time I watched it, but the second time I just kind of learned to accept it. V for Vendetta, very, very good movie. My wife actually introduced that movie to me. Vacation, such a fun 80s comedy, and really happy to have it on this really nice 4K release that came out last year. Of all the vacation movies, this one is still my favorite. Van Helsing. Actually enjoy this movie. It's a ridiculous movie, but I am nostalgic about it from my childhood, but I also just think, I don't know, they just don't make goofy, fun, well-made action-adventure movies quite like this anymore, and I wish they did. Victor Frankenstein, this is actually legitimately good telling of the Frankenstein story. I didn't expect it to be, but it actually really is. James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe. Walk the Line, biopic about Johnny Cash. I don't know. I don't really know why I have that. Walking Tall, actually a pretty fun action movie with Dwayne Johnson. One of his better ones. He doesn't have a lot of great ones. Warcraft, never seen it. I like epic fantasy sometimes, so I thought it could be interesting, but never watched it. The Ward, John Carpenter's final movie as a director. Not very good, but as a John Carpenter fan, kind of have to have it. The Way, Way Back. This is actually a very good dramedy with Sam Rockwell and Steve Carell and very good supporting performances, but it's mainly about this teenage boy coming of age while on vacation, like a good coming of age movie. We Bought a Zoo. This is actually a great dramedy with Matt Damon. Gosh, I really liked movies like this. Too bad they don't really make this, but it's just like a good family movie that's not dumbed down and is good for people of all ages. Wet Hot American Summer, one of the most ridiculous comedies I've ever seen, and also one of the funniest. Just such a nutty spoof of the summer camp genre. Oh gosh, it's so funny. What's Your Number? A better rom-com than you might expect with Anna Faris and Chris Evans. I actually really enjoy that one. When a Stranger Calls, still never seen it. Really need to. 70s horror classic. When Harry Met Sally, one of the best rom-coms out there. An absolute classic. The Whip and the Body, interesting Mario Bava movie, kind of a torture, messed up romance kind of a movie. Interesting, slow for sure, but interesting. Who's Harry Crumb? Pretty fun 80s comedy with John Candy. The Wicker Man, one of the greatest horror films ever made, like one of my top, the greatest folk horror film ever made. Gosh, Christopher Lee in this movie, man, such a great folk horror film. Wild River, never seen it. Got it at Big Lots for $2.88. So that was the right price, but I still haven't popped it in. Wild Things, very good 90s thriller. This is just really well-made trash. And sometimes you just got to respect that. Do I have a floater in here? Oh no, I do. My goodness. That's scary. Oh, the thing is kind of broken. The thing that holds the disc kind of broken. Got to look out for that. Anyway, Willow is an awesome fantasy movie from George Lucas and Ron Howard. One of my absolute favorites in that genre. We're almost to the end of the standard alphabetical. Super close. We've got The Witch, probably pound for pound, the greatest, most satisfying witchcraft horror film ever made. Wolf with Jack Nicholson. It's decent. It's like more of a workplace drama than it is a werewolf movie. It's a really weird mix. I don't think it quite works. The Wolfman is a really good remake of the original The Wolfman. Certainly nowhere near as good, but when you watch the extended cut, it becomes a much better movie, I think. So if you're not a big fan of that and you haven't seen the extended cut, I say check it out. Wormwood Apocalypse. This is one that I got in a horror pack. Have not seen it. The World's End. This is the best of the Cornetto trilogy for me with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost by Edgar Wright. Like I said, I think they get better as they go, and I think that one's the best one. Ty West X, fantastic modern slasher, 70s throwback. Gosh, I just loved this movie. Now we're getting into the X-Men movies. X-Men and X-Men 2, really love these movies. X-Men 3, I think, is kind of underrated. It's just really fun and satisfying, I think. X-Men First Class, I used to love this, loved it less on a rewatch. It's just very prequel-y in not great ways. X-Men Days of Future Past, that's a really good one. X-Men Apocalypse, kind of satisfying as a comic book fan, but not like a good movie. X-Men Origins Wolverine, terrible. And The Wolverine, fantastic. Though I still haven't watched the Blu-ray since I got it at Big Lots for $5, but I have seen it a few times, and I really enjoy it. Extra, insane 1980s alien horror film. I need to rewatch this again. It's been a while. That's just a crazy movie. Triple X. This is a movie I also kind of want to see when I was a kid, and I never did, so I bought it on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it yet. The Virgin Witch. This is a 1970s, I think, British horror film. Still have not watched it. Young Frankenstein. I like it, but it's not quite the comedy classic that it is for a lot of people. For me, You're the Hunter from the Future, a Mill Creek release of a 1980s fantasy movie. It's not good. It's really not good, but I got it very cheap. I was interested in it, and it didn't turn out to be good. Your Name. This is one of the greatest anime films I've ever seen. It's like a star-crossed lovers, body-swapping fantasy romance that I think is phenomenal. Really enjoyed that. I think when it came out, it broke the record for like a Japanese anime film box office, like worldwide. It did really well. You've Got Mail. Very fun. Not a great movie by any means. I don't love it. But what I do love is The Shop Around the Corner. And it contains it on DVD as a bonus disc. That's why I still haven't bought The Shop Around the Corner on Blu-ray. But I need to upgrade it for sure. And then we've got Zodiac. David Fincher's Zodiac, which I've seen once, did not love. Like I said, I'm not a big David Fincher guy. But yeah, I still have it because I may give it another chance one of these days. Now let's get into the kids' movies. Yeah, that's good. Let's get into the kids' movies. I separated these out for my son, but he's a toddler, and they're totally out of order because he messes with them a lot, but I took all the slipcovers off, so it's okay. So we got Toy Story 4, which actually was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I did really like Toy Story 4. Finding Dory, I liked a lot less. I didn't think that was as good a sequel. Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, one of my absolute favorite Disney movies, particularly because of the second story about Ichabod, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Absolutely fantastic. An October must watch every year. Finding Nemo, maybe my favorite Pixar movie. I think it's pretty amazing. Monsters, Inc., very nostalgic and fun. Wonder Woman, this shouldn't be there. This should be with the regular Blu-rays, but I do really love Wonder Woman. It's probably my favorite movie in the DC universe that they did. Paddington and Paddington 2, a couple of the best family movies of recent years. I think these are really fantastic. And I also really enjoy reading the books to my son as well. The House with the Clock in Its Walls, very good. Kids spooky movie, like Halloweeny movie, just a little bit scarier than you would expect. I thought that was a pretty great movie. And it's directed by Eli Roth. That's one of his best movies, honestly. Original Toy Story, absolute classic. According to my parents, it's the first movie I ever saw in a theater. Ratatouille, probably my second favorite Pixar. An amazing movie about like France and cooking, in addition to being a kid's animated movie. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Come on, that's a good time. The original Santa Claus, very nostalgic for me. I don't think it's a particularly great movie, but very nostalgic. How to Train Your Dragon 2. I saw this in theaters, and it is to date the best 3D I've ever seen in a theater. And I love this series, the How to Train Your Dragon movies. Some of the best kids movies ever made. The classic, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Monsters University, a better sequel than a lot of people give it credit for. It's actually a pretty good college movie. Frozen, very iconic at this point. The Peanuts movie, actually pretty successful. As a lifelong Peanuts fan, I quite enjoyed this movie. Beauty and the Beast, in contention with Spirited Away for my favorite animated movie ever made. It's certainly my favorite Disney animated film ever made. Home Alone, fantastic. The Muppets Christmas Carol, come on. How can you not love a Muppets Christmas Carol? It's my favorite Christmas Carol movie. The original Muppets, which I've never seen. Coco, that's a good Pixar movie. Incredibles 2, not one of my favorite Pixar sequels, but pretty good, pretty successful overall. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Man, they will just never... No Willy Wonka movie will ever match this. Like, no other Willy Wonka movie is willing to be this like weird and out there. Like, only in the 70s could a good Willy Wonka movie be made, I think. Muppets Take Manhattan. I've not seen this either. And then we got one more stack of kids movies before we're getting into the boutique collection. So we got Toy Story 2, my favorite Toy Story movie. My favorite Toy Story movie. We've got Mad Monster Party. Insane. I wish I liked this more. It's basically a Halloween monster mash movie about the classic monsters in the style of like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So it's got those puppets. So it looks so good. I just wish the script wasn't terrible. Like, it's a really bad script, bad story, way too long. But man, I love how it looks. Here's an anime film I blind bought, still haven't seen. Children Who Chase Lost Voices. Monster House. Love this movie. Great Halloween animated movie. Inside Out. Absolutely one of my favorite Pixar movies. That movie's pretty incredible. Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. That's a pretty good Hayao Miyazaki film. Not one of my favorites, but it's pretty good. Elf. One of my wife's favorite movies. Toy Story 3, I like it. Not as much as a lot of people, though. It's my least favorite Toy Story movie. The original How to Train Your Dragon, fantastic. Looney Tunes back in action. I love this movie. It's so underrated. I mean, it's Joe Dante. Come on. It's just like, it's got Brandon Fraser in it and all the Looney Tunes characters. I love it. It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, a classic. The Grinch from, it's the Illumination animated one. My wife loves that one. The original Jumanji, one of the most nostalgic movies for me, actually. I watched that over and over when I was a kid, and it holds up. The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Lego Movie, pretty good. The Aristocats, I grew up with that one. The Incredibles, one of the most important movies to my childhood, honestly. That's a pretty great movie. The original How the Great Stole Christmas with Boris Karloff. Addams Family and Addams Family Values. Sky High, man, that's great. These are some great family movies right here. And Goosebumps. I really enjoyed this updating telling of Goosebumps. Okay, well, that's all the standard Blu-rays. Now, I thought the first boutique label we would jump into is the Criterion collection. So here's all of my Criterion Blu-rays. First up, All That Heaven Allows. This is a Douglas Sirk movie with Rock Hudson, and it's just absolutely beautiful and a great romantic drama. I've seen it a couple times, but not since I finally got the Criterion, so it's still in the plastic wrap. Martin Scorsese's After Hours. Man, a lot of us have been waiting on this to come to Blu-ray for a long time. And this is on 4K, which is great to have. One of my favorite Scorsese movies, honestly. I have a video all about it on the channel. Anatomy of a Murder. Man, what a great courtroom drama. So good. It's really long, but it just kept my attention and I could not turn it off. The Asphalt Jungle. Really good noir heist movie with Sterling Hayden. Also Marilyn Monroe in a small role. The Beauty and the Beast, or it's like La Belle et la Bête or something like that. I don't remember the French title, but it's from the 1940s and it's so imaginative. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I want to rewatch it. I love the Beauty and the Beast story. The Big Chill. Never seen it. A friend of mine gave that to me, actually. I need to pop it in. Bringing Up Baby, one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. Just one of the funniest comedies like ever made. Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn, so good. Buck and the Preacher, incredible Western with Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, directed by Sidney Poitier. If you haven't seen this and you like Westerns at all, wow, you need to watch that movie. Carnival of Souls, one of the best 60s horror films, just so atmospheric. And it's like a low budget indie movie from the 60s, but it's so successful. I just love Carnival of Souls. Clooney Brown, this is a really good rom-com from the 1940s from Ernst Lubitsch. David Cronenberg's Crash, still never seen it. Don't Look Now, still never seen it. I consider this the biggest horror classic that I've still never seen. That's probably the one. Eve's Bayou, that's a very good like 90s drama, but also a witchcraft voodoo kind of a movie. It's got Samuel L. Jackson in a really good role. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, one of my favorite 80s teen comedies. This is a Todd Browning 3-pack, primarily of Freaks, which is an incredible movie, but also The Unknown, a great silent movie, and The Mystic, which I still haven't seen, but it's a very cool Digipack release. The Gunfighter, fantastic 1940s Western with Gregory Peck, how he's a legendary gunfighter, and it really just tells the story of how being a legendary gunfighter is it's a terrible life, and it really just delivers that story in such a fascinating way. His Girl Friday, that's a great movie with Cary Grant. Oh my gosh. Howard Hawks, great newspaper rom-com kind of movie. History is Made at Night. It's a very good romantic drama. It's also got Colin Clive, the original Dr. Frankenstein, in a really good role. The Holiday, this is like the most unknown of all the rom-coms starring Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant, but it deserves to be more well-known. It's very, very good. Oh man, I need to make some room here. I am trapped by Blu-rays, I say. The Innocents, a pretty excellent haunted house movie from the 1960s. In a Lonely Place, one of my favorite noir films. Humphrey Bogart's best performance, I would say. In the Heat of the Night, a great 1960s movie about race relations during that time, starring Sidney Poitier as a detective investigating murders. Great film. I Want to Hold Your Hand from Robert Zemeckis. Still never seen this one. Incredible Shrinking Man, one of my favorite 1950s science fiction movies. Very entertaining, but also thought-provoking. Island of Lost Souls. This is a Dr. Moreau story, and it's very, very good. Very good pre-code, kind of edgy horror film from the 30s. It Happened One Night. Speaking of pre-code, edgy movies from the 30s, this is like the romantic comedy that all other romantic comedies are jumping off of. It's like the template for so much, and it's a really, really great movie. Jubal, fantastic Western with Ernest Borgnine and Glenn Ford. It's almost like a potboiler, intense thriller more than like a Western, though it looks like a Western. Great film. The Killing, one of my favorite heist movies, noir films. One of my favorite Stanley Kubrick movies. Honestly, I love The Killing. Kiss Me Deadly, pretty interesting, very weird noir movie from the 50s. Very unusual. Got a very impactful and strange ending like you would never expect. The Lady Eve, my personal favorite classic screwball comedy. Incredible. It's a Preston Sturges movie with Barbara Stanwyck and Henry Fonda. Leave Her to Heaven, kind of a mix of a romantic melodrama and a very intense, dark noir film. Great movie. My Darling Clementine, classic Western from the 40s that I've just never loved as much as I've always wanted to, but I'm always trying to find my way in to figure out why that movie is such a classic. Yikes. My Man Godfrey, this is another one of my favorite classic screwball comedies. William Powell, so good. Merrily We Go to Hell. I don't know how much I'll ever rewatch this, but it's an interesting melodrama about a failing marriage that's very pre-code. Early 1930s movie that deals with some very mature subject matter. A Night to Remember. This is a telling of the Titanic story. I've still never seen it, but I really want to see it because it's directed by Roy Ward Baker, who's one of my favorite directors of Hammer movies. Nightmare Alley. That's a really great noir film / kind of carnival, almost horror film. Very, very good. Very cool release from Criterion. The Others, one of my favorite haunted house movies of all time. Gosh, The Others is incredible. The Philadelphia Story. This is, it's one of my absolute top romantic comedies ever made. Incredible cast. Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, and Katharine Hepburn. They're all so good in this film. Then we've got Seconds. I just recently saw this, John Frankenheimer's Seconds, and it blew me away. A very dark and disturbing science fiction horror film, I would say, starring Rock Hudson in possibly his greatest performance. Something Wild. This is one of my favorite movies in the Criterion Collection. It's a Jonathan Demme film starring Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith that starts out as a romantic comedy, becomes something much different and much darker by the end. And I really love the transition from the two different genres. Stagecoach, one of my absolute favorite Westerns, John Wayne's breakout role, not his first role, but his breakout role in John Ford's Stagecoach. Love that film. Sullivan's Travels, a very good 1940s comedy from Preston Sturges that really has a very beautiful thing to say about the importance of comedy entertainment, and it's not lesser than drama. And I thought that was pretty impactful. Swing Time, this is a really good musical comedy from Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and it is to date the only Fred and Ginger musical that is on Blu-ray, which I think is insane. Criterion, release a box set or release them all separately. Do it. What are you doing? They Live by Night, my favorite noir film of all time, and the only film noir that I find really emotionally impactful. Thief, my favorite Michael Mann movie, one of my favorite Jimmy Caan. One of my favorite James Caan performances. Just such an incredible heist movie, but more importantly, an incredible character drama. To Be or Not to Be, one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen, about a theater troupe trying to fool some Nazis during World War II, and it is awesome. The Trial, still haven't seen this. It's an Orson Welles movie starring Anthony Perkins. I need to check it out. Two Lane Blacktop, haven't seen this either. Heard a lot of people say it's a great 70s movie. The Uninvited, one of my favorite haunted house movies from the 1940s. Valerie and Her Week of Wonders, very weird, trippy Czechoslovakian vampire movie. And I think it's really interesting and really good. David Cronenberg's Videodrome, probably my favorite Cronenberg movie, actually. James Woods in an incredible performance. It's like the role he was born to play, this kind of sleazy weirdo who gets wrapped into this like sick world of television as David Cronenberg. It's a typical David Cronenberg movie in terms of mixing technology with violence, with sexuality. It's a great movie. The original War of the Worlds looks amazing on 4K, such a bright, vivid color film. Wings of Desire, never seen it. And Douglas Sirk's Written on the Wind. Really enjoy this one. Okay, let's go ahead and start. That's all my Criterions. So let's go ahead and get started with the Kino Lorbers next. I'm going to make a little bit of room here. All right, so there we go. Okay, there we go. So I've got a Westerns Classics collection. Didn't turn out to be that great. I saw The Virginian and When the Daltons Rode. Neither were that great, but I still need to see Whispering Smith. But it's cool that they're all in these individual cases. Just wasn't terribly great. 12 Angry Men on 4K, one of the best movies ever made. I think we all know that. Come on, 12 Angry Men's incredible, and this is the best way to own it. American Ninja and American Ninja 2. I've been waiting on these to get good Blu-ray releases for a long time because they were on like crappy, way too expensive olive Blu-rays for a long time. But I'm so glad Kino released them. These nice slip-covered editions. They look fantastic. And I really enjoy these movies. They're very, very fun 80s canon action movies. The Apartment on 4K. I still haven't actually watched the 4K, but I do love this movie. I've seen it many times. The Big Easy, that's a pretty good 1980s thriller with Dennis Quaid. Not great, but it's pretty good. The Bride Who Wore Black, just got this. There are a few in here that I just recently got in the recent sale. Have not watched it yet, but I've heard it's great. Came highly recommended from a friend. The Boogans, 1980s creature feature. Just got this one on 4K. Have not seen it, technically. But I did sleep through most of it at a 24-hour horror marathon that I attended in a theater. I was kind of in and out of sleep during the Boogans. It was in the middle of the night. So I'm excited to finally watch it, and in 4K, no less. Deep Rising, that's a fun 90s horror adventure movie about sea monsters. Get Crazy, haven't seen it. Heard it's good. Good comedy. Hardcore, this is like the best movie I've watched recently, my favorite movie I've seen yet in 2024, about George C. Scott diving into the world of the adult entertainment industry in the 70s to try to rescue his daughter who went missing. Incredible film. House of Long Shadows, I really enjoyed this. It's a 1980s like horror comedy, and it's got Peter Cushing, Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, and John Carradine, and it's a good time. I remember enjoying that one. Manchurian Candidate on 4K. I watched this for the first time when I got this 4K, and the movie blew me away, and the 4K transfer blew me away as well. Needful Things on 4K. Still have not seen it. It's a Stephen King adaptation. New Year's Evil. Really good, underrated 80s slasher, I think, and I love that cover art. Night of the Hunter on 4K. I love this film. Such an impactful 1950s like fantasy horror noir kind of hybrid, but I haven't actually watched the 4K yet, so I'm excited to own it that way. Number One with a Bullet, just got this one, action movie, haven't seen it. One Against Tomorrow. This is a 1950s like drama thriller about race relations, I understand, and I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, that cover is just really cool. Secret Admirer, this is one of my absolute top 80s teen movies. I love this film. It's so, so good. I'm so happy to own it from Kino. If you haven't noticed, like I put all my slip-covered Kino Lorbers all together and then the non-slip-covered after that. So that's just how I organize them. Silence of the Lambs on 4K. Actually didn't own this movie before, and I haven't seen it since I was a teenager. So I need to rewatch that for sure. And Two Mules for Sister Sarah. It's a pretty fun, actually kind of cute Clint Eastwood Western about him and Shirley MacLaine. It's very different from most of his Westerns, way less dark. Now into the non-slip-covered ones. We've got Alias Nick Beale, very good noir thriller that kind of dips into the horror genre by the end. And Inspector Calls, very interesting, kind of a fable, a parable about rich people and how they treat people. And it's very interesting. It's from the 1940s. And Soon the Darkness, haven't seen it. Heard it's a very good 70s horror film. The Annihilators, very fun, cheesy, lower budget 80s action movie. I kind of like movies like that. The Art of Love. This is a romantic comedy with Dick Van Dyke and James Gardner and Angie Dickinson. It's not great, but it's fun if you like that kind of movie, which I do. Avenging Force. This is another Michael Dudikoff canon action movie, and I really, really like it. It's really good. The Aviator, have not seen it. I've owned that for years. Still have not watched it. The Bank Dick, W.C. Fields. I have historically not been a big W.C. Fields fan. He was a comedian in the 30s, but I'll give that one a chance. I bought it. The Big Country, one of the best westerns, starring Gregory Peck. It's very long. It's like 2.5 hours, but it's worth every minute. Black Sabbath, one of my favorite Mario Bava movies. It's a great horror anthology, 3 different segments altogether. Broken Arrow, that's a very good Jimmy Stewart western. It's basically like Dances with Wolves before Dances with Wolves, I would say. Bluebeard's Eighth Wife, a decent Ernst Lubitsch romantic comedy, but he made a lot of great romantic comedies. That one's probably my least favorite. Burnt Offerings, really, really enjoy this. I got the chance to see this for the first time in a theater last October at another horror 24-hour marathon, and it's a great haunted house movie. I just love it. Cannibal Apocalypse. This is a Italian horror film starring John Saxon. Not very good, actually. That one disappointed me. It's kind of boring for as great as the title sounds. Canyon Passage, pretty good 1940s Western starring Dana Andrews. Cat and the Canary. Love this movie. It's a great horror comedy from the 1930s starring Bob Hope. Christmas in July. This is an incredible Preston Sturges movie from the early 1940s about a guy who believes he won a contest and won a ton of money. And turns out he was tricked, but he goes out and spends it really early. And it's really just emotionally impactful, but very funny. Absolutely hilarious. Come September, that's another one of my favorite romantic comedies, starring Rock Hudson and Gina Lollobrigida. Rest in peace. She just recently passed away. And it's just so visually beautiful, but also just so much fun. The Crimson Cult, really like this. This is a 1960s horror film. I think it's kind of a Lovecraft adaptation too, with Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee. It's really, really fun. Cry of the City, have not seen it. Noir film. Day of the Outlaw, that's one of my favorite 1950s Westerns. Really cool movie, very dark. The Day the Earth Caught Fire, very interesting 1960s science fiction film about the Earth. They find out the Earth is going to start heating up very quickly, and pretty soon everyone's going to die, and it's about people dealing with that. Deep Star 6, Sean S. Cunningham underwater horror movie, have not seen it yet. The Day the Earth Dies Screaming, a Terrence Fisher 1960s black and white sci-fi film. It's okay. It's not terrific by any means. Enemy Below, did not like this movie. I'm not a big war movie fan, and this one didn't work for me. Enter the Ninja. Not as good as American Ninja for sure, but it's got a lot of camp value because it has Franco Nero as a ninja, which is ridiculous. It's one of those early canon movies. I'm trying to get to my water. I'm really thirsty, but I'm like burying it away in Blu-rays. We're taking a breather. We're taking a breather. And let's keep going. Evil Under the Sun. This is a Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie adaptation. And I still haven't seen it, but I've heard it's great. The Experts. That's a very enjoyable 1980s comedy with John Travolta and Kelly Preston. They actually met on the set of this movie. Considering their chemistry in the movie, easy to see why they got married. Fistful of Dynamite. This is one of the Sergio Leone Westerns I still haven't seen, so I need to check it out. The Flesh and the Fiends, Peter Cushing horror film. Have not seen that either. For Love or Money, Michael J. Fox rom-com. And I feel like I kind of put it in the same category with The Secret of My Success. It seems like most people prefer The Secret of My Success. I prefer this one. I think this one is a better movie. I think it's really great. It's underrated. The Ghost Breakers. This is like the follow-up horror comedy, The Cat and the Canary, also with Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. Nowhere near as good. Enjoyable enough, but not great. Cat and Canary is way better. Hangover Square. I've seen half of this movie and I got interrupted and I still haven't gone back to it, but I need to go back to it. High Plains Drifter, my favorite Clint Eastwood Western. I said what I said. It's the best. The Hitchhiker. This is a noir film I've heard a lot of great things about and it kind of disappointed me. I thought it was just very slight and basic and I wasn't super into it. Okay, The House on Carroll Street. Jeff Daniels, have not seen it. It's another one I've owned for years. I'm not sure why I bought it, but I've never felt the need to pop it in. I Wake Up Screaming. This is a great early noir film from the 1940s. Very dark, murder mystery. Really like it. I Walk Alone is a great 1940s noir as well, starring Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. Excellent movie. I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. A friend of mine gave this to me. It's a blaxploitation film, but apparently a spoof of blaxploitation films. This is from the late 80s. Most of the blaxploitation classics came out in the 70s. I still haven't seen it. I haven't been in the mood for a blaxploitation spoof lately. What can I say? Invitation to a Gunfighter. Haven't seen this yet either. It's a Western with Yul Brynner. Jungle Fever, a Spike Lee movie. I haven't seen this either. Wesley Snipes. I love Wesley Snipes. That's really why I bought it. The Lost Weekend, Billy Wilder film. This is the biggest Billy Wilder movie I still haven't seen. Of all his classics, still have not checked it out, but I need to because I love Ray Milland. And Love Me Tonight, an okay 1930s romantic comedy. I heard it was a lot like the Ernst Lubitsch ones, which is why I bought it, but it's not quite that good. Then we've got Love with the Proper Stranger. This is actually my favorite Steve McQueen movie. It's a pretty incredible romantic drama with him and Natalie Wood, who's also one of my favorite actors. So I absolutely love that film. Malice. This is actually a really good 90s erotic thriller that's like kind of trashy, but really well done. It's got Bill Pullman, Nicole Kidman, Alec Baldwin. I really enjoyed that when I saw it. The Man Who Could Cheat Death. This is a Hammer movie directed by Terrence Fisher, but it's got Christopher Lee in a supporting role, but it's not great. It's not as good as most Terrence Fisher Hammer movies are. Man of the West. Very, very good. Very, very dark 1950s Western with Gary Cooper. That's one of my favorites. The Mark of Zorro. Mask of Zorro is with Antonio Banderas. We talked about it before. This is like the original classic Zorro movie, starring Tyrone Power as Zorro. And it's just a really good classic swashbuckler. I love classic swashbucklers. Modern Girls. This is a 1980s comedy, and it's got, I feel like it's got a great cast, but I can't remember everybody. Cynthia Gibb, Virginia Madsen, Daphne Zuniga. Daphne Zuniga is who I was thinking of. I'm a big fan of her. Anyway, yeah, that's a good 1980s, a little bit older than teen movie. Good 80s vibes in there. More Dead Than Alive. This is a really good Western with Vincent Price in a supporting role, actually. Murder by Decree. Still haven't seen it. It's like a Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper movie. Still in the plastic, but I really need to check that out because I've heard it is really good. My Boyfriend's Back. I actually wasn't a big fan of this movie, but I heard it compared a lot to Lisa Frankenstein, which just recently came out. And I really liked Lisa Frankenstein. So I thought maybe I missed the boat on My Boyfriend's Back. I should check it out again. About a guy who comes back from the dead to romance a girl. If I had a nickel, right? Naked Alibi. This is a 1950s noir film with Sterling Hayden and Gloria Graham. I still haven't seen it, but very salacious cover there. So gotta check it out. Navajo Joe. This is one of my favorite spaghetti westerns, another Burt Reynolds movie. It's Burt Reynolds as a Native American versus some really bad cowboys. It's a great film, I thought. Very violent western. The Night Stalker and The Night Strangler, TV movie starring Kolchak against spooky villains. I really like The Night Stalker. I haven't seen The Night Strangler yet, though, so I need to watch it. Nightmare Beach, really good Umberto Lenzi 80s horror slasher movie. It's just a really good time. The Oblong Box, I still haven't seen. Kind of an Edgar Allan Poe adaptation, so I hear. It's got Vincent Price and Christopher Lee, so how can you go wrong there? 1 Million Years BC, Hammer's prehistoric movie. I didn't think it was very good, but apparently the Blu-ray is out of print and kind of valuable, so that's cool. The Pit, this is a very weird 1980s horror movie that I watched like in the middle of the night during a horror marathon with some friends, and it was kind of hard to get through. I think I slept through a little bit of it, to be honest with you. Pitfall, an excellent noir film about a guy who tries to cheat on his wife and faces some very horrible consequences from there. 1, 2, 3. This is a Billy Wilder movie with James Cagney, actually. I've heard it's really good. I need to check it out. I haven't seen it yet. The Premature Burial. This is the only one of the Roger Corman Edgar Allan Poe films that does not have Vincent Price, but even without Price, it's still an awesome movie. Very dark and macabre in that gothic Poe sort of a way. Quantes, really good Western starring Fred McMurray from the 1950s. I really like 50s Westerns. That's a really good example of them. The Quatermass Experiment, one of Hammer's early hits, kicked off their Quatermass series, and I thought it was pretty good, but it's one I kind of want to give a rewatch to because it didn't impact me as much as it does for a lot of other people. Revenge of the Ninja, the sort of sequel in name only to Enter the Ninja, but way better. It's got Sho Kazugi as the lead ninja. He's a way better ninja than Franco Nero, for sure. Road to Rio. This is one of those road movies that Bing Crosby and Bob Hope made together. They made a lot of these. I don't remember if I've seen this, to be honest with you. There are a lot of those road movies, and I don't remember which ones I've seen. Running Scared is a great buddy cop movie from the 80s. One thing I like about it is a lot of buddy cop movies are about the two cops butting heads and fighting until they learn to work together. And in this one, they're just buds through the whole time. So it's just like a really good vibe movie where two guys are just hanging out, fighting some bad guys, and also go on vacation for a whole segment of the movie. Sam Whiskey, another Burt Reynolds movie. Very fun Western comedy from the 60s. Him and Angie Dickinson and Clint Walker and Ossie Davis. It's got a great cast. I really liked it. Secret of My Success, which I just mentioned. Good, but not as good as For Love or Money. Shakedown, one of the best noir films, and I feel like it rarely gets that kind of credit. It's like the Jake Gyllenhaal movie Nightcrawler, but in the 50s, and it's a really great version of that kind of story. The Silent Partner, I've not seen this. I've heard it's fantastic. The Skull, this is an Amicus movie with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. I believe it's Amicus' second horror film after Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. I don't remember it being that great. It's not an anthology. It's a regular movie, but I don't remember much about it, to be honest. I just remember not being very impressed by it. Space Camp. This is actually a really fun movie. 1980s movie about kids who go off to space camp and accidentally get sent off into space. It's got a really good cast, including Kate Capshaw and Leah Thompson and Kelly Preston. I thought it was a fantastic time. Specialist, spaghetti western from Sergio Corbucci. I still haven't watched it. The Spiral Staircase, great murder thriller from the 1940s. Supernatural, it's a 1930s pre-code horror film, and not very good. I just recently saw it. That one was disappointing, unfortunately. Last Kino Lorber stack, kind of a short stack here. We've got Support Your Local Sheriff. This is a really good Western comedy starring James Gardner. The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, classic 70s movie I still haven't seen, so I need to pop that one in. 10 Seconds to Hell, haven't seen it. This one was a gift. They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Heard this is a great drama from the 60s. Haven't seen this one either, but it's got Jane Fonda, and I really like Jane Fonda in the 60s, particularly in the 70s, probably too. Treasure of the Four Crowns, kind of an Indiana Jones ripoff in 3D, and I haven't watched it yet, so got to check it out. Truck Turner, this is actually probably my favorite blaxploitation movie. It is so good. It is so much fun. Tough Turf, just recently saw this. This is a really, really good, a really good 80s teen movie starring James Spader. It's basically Rebel Without a Cause. It's Rebel Without a Cause, but in the 80s with James Spader, and gets very dark and violent by the end. Twice Told Tales. This is actually my favorite of Vincent Price's horror anthologies. He also did Tales of Terror, which are based on stories by Edgar Allan Poe. This one is based on stories by Nathaniel Hawthorne. That's right, Nathaniel Hawthorne. And I thought it was fantastic. It's 2 hours long, unusually long for a horror film from the 60s, but I think it's worth it. The Undying Monster. This is a 1940s werewolf movie. Kind of doesn't really become anything werewolf-like until the very end. I don't remember this movie being very good, unfortunately. I wish I could tell you it was great. War Gods of the Deep. Not a good Vincent Price movie. Disappointing. Not good at all. What a Way to Go. This is a fun movie about Shirley MacLaine's character, and she keeps marrying these different guys and they keep accidentally dying. And she thinks she's cursed because like every time she marries someone, they die. It's got an amazing cast with her. Paul Newman, Robert Mitchum, Dean Martin, Gene Kelly, Bob Cummings, Dick Van Dyke. It's fun. It's a fun 60s comedy. Another fun 60s comedy, What's So Bad About Feeling Good? That's about this epidemic going around the country. An epidemic going around the country that makes everybody happy. And it's about the government trying to deal with this sickness that makes people happy. I don't know. I feel like there's some commentary in there. White Lightning, still haven't seen it. Burt Reynolds movie. Witness for the Prosecution, fantastic. Courtroom drama, probably my favorite, along with Anatomy of a Murder. And Woman in the Window, very intense murder thriller in which Edward G. Robinson tries to get away with murder. So that's it for my Kino Lorber collection. Next, we're going into Vinegar Syndrome. Are you guys excited? Time for some really fancy horror schlock releases. But this isn't horror schlock. This is their recent Cinematographe release of Red Rock West, which is a phenomenal 1990s Nicolas Cage noir film. It's a very classic like noir. It just happened to have been made in the 90s instead of the 50s, starring Nicolas Cage. And like I said, I absolutely love Nicolas Cage. So that is a great movie, a great release. The Beastmaster. This is the only VSU release I have. Vinegar Syndrome does these super fancy releases of movies. They call them Vinegar Syndrome Ultimate, VSU. This is their first one. I got this because I really like Beastmaster, and I always wanted to own it, but it wasn't available to own for a long time. And then they finally put out this beautiful release, but I still haven't watched it. It's 4K and I still haven't checked it out. I've still only seen it previous to buying this. Just crazy. Blade in the Dark. This is a great 1980s Italian giallo film. Very, very cool release here. Still haven't popped this in yet. I've seen it a couple times on streaming, but still haven't watched the 4K. I have these kind of organized by packaging type, how big the packaging is to how small the packaging is. This is Censor. This is one of my favorite recent horror films about a woman in the 1980s who was part of the British censor censoring horror movies, and she starts to lose her mind. It's a really, really beautiful release of this movie. The kind of movie that could get lost on just streaming only if it wasn't for Vinegar Syndrome putting it out. The Horrible Dr. Hitchcock, a great Italian Gothic film starring Barbara Steele. I have a whole video about this over on the channel. Made in Hong Kong Volume 1. This is a collection of 3 different Hong Kong horror films. I still haven't watched it, so I need to start digging into this collection. And Mexican Gothic, the horror films of Carlos Enrique Taboada. I've watched 2 of the 3 films and didn't love either of them. So I'm not a super big fan of this box set so far, but I still need to check out the 3rd one. Really, really beautiful packaging, though. I mean, it's Vinegar Syndrome. That's kind of what they do. This is a VSA release, Vinegar Syndrome Archive, they call it, of Action USA. And I love this movie. It's a 1980s action film that was made by stuntmen, basically just as an excuse to do a lot of crazy stunts in front of a camera. And boy, do they do it. There's so much cool stunt work in this movie, and it's really cool. It's vastly out of print, so it's very valuable, and I'm very happy to have it. Moon of the Wolf. This is a 1970s werewolf movie. I super enjoy this movie. It's just a cozy little small town 70s TV film that has a werewolf in it. And I think it's really fun. The Amityville Horror. Love this movie. Absolutely love this movie. I think it's really underrated. And this is a beautiful 4K release. It looks incredible on 4K. So super happy to have that. Blood Delirium, a very sick, twisted, and disturbing Italian horror film from the 80s, but it's very interesting. It's like, for a movie as sick as it is, it's kind of impressive that it's also so well made, because it really is. Blood Games, don't remember being a big fan of this one. It's about a female baseball team, and I believe one of their teammates gets assaulted by these guys, and they go out for revenge. And it's kind of a low-budget, schlocky 80s thing. Didn't super love it, to be honest. Buried Alive. I understand this is basically like an Edgar Allan Poe type movie, but as an 80s slasher. Have not seen it yet, but I've heard really good things. Burning Paradise. This is one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases, actually. This is an incredible Hong Kong horror film from the 90s. Kind of a mix of action, martial arts, and gothic horror. So I called it a horror film. It's more so a martial arts movie, but it's a really good mix of all of those things. The Cat Creeps. This is like a cheap little 1940s B-movie, old dark house mystery. I don't know why Vinegar Syndrome chose to release this movie in a really nice release, but I'm happy to have it. I was happy to check it out. The Cellar. This is a 1980s creature feature. It takes place in a small farmhouse where they discover there is a frightening creature in the cellar. And it's pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. Count Dracula's Great Love, Paul Naschy, Dracula movie. I really like this. I love Paul Naschy movies. Dear Dead Delilah. Have not seen this. Kind of a Southern Gothic sort of thing, so I hear. So definitely need to check it out. The Devonsville Terror, an excellent 1980s witch movie, witch hunting film. And it's got just way more going on intellectually than you would expect. Like, it is kind of a schlocky exploitation movie at times, but it's kind of thought-provoking and interesting at the same time. I was very impressed by it. The Evil Laugh, I was not impressed by. This is a slasher movie. It's very dumb, very silly, kind of meta at times, which I kind of respect. But you see this like Grim Reaper guy on the cover, and you see him there as well. Not in the movie. False advertising. Very cool cover, but false advertising. Fade to Black. This is a really good 80s horror film about a guy who's obsessed with movies, and he's a weirdo, and circumstances lead him to start killing people. And I love this slipcovered release right here. They had multiple slipcovers that they let you choose from, and I definitely chose this one. Thought it was beautiful. The Fear. This is a very weird 90s horror movie that's all over the place. So ridiculous. Actually, is Wes Craven in an acting role, but I thought it was very interesting watch, and I really enjoyed it. Man, I need some water. I'm losing my voice. Do you guys think I'm going to make it? Place your bets now if I kill over during the filming. Flesh and Fantasy. This is a great 1940s horror anthology film. I have a whole video about this on the channel. All right. Continuing with Vinegar Syndrome. We have got Flesh for Frankenstein, which is a ridiculously fancy release of all one movie. There's the 3D copy because it was released in 3D. And the normal copy. A very sleazy, gross, ridiculous telling of Frankenstein from the 70s. And I don't know. I kind of enjoy it, I suppose. Frightmare, not a good movie. I watched this just recently. Did not really enjoy it. Kind of a basic slasher movie and not in a good way. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, really good anthology horror film from Amicus and a beautiful 4K release. I have a whole video about this on the channel as well. The Iceman Cometh. I just recently saw this. This is a Hong Kong action movie. It's a fish out of water, time travel, like guys from old, the Ming Dynasty come to modern day Hong Kong and still have to fight each other. And it's really fun. It's kind of a comedy in addition to being a really kick-ass action film. The Laughing Dead, ridiculous, insane 1980s horror movie. And it's pretty fun. Madman, really love this. 4K release of a really great 80s slasher film. Mother's Day on 4K, have not seen it. Night Screams on 4K, have not seen it. This is a slasher movie. The Playgirls and the Vampire, have not seen it. This just recently came out. I just got it. And Italian Gothic film I'm looking forward to checking out. Primal Rage on 4K. This is one of my favorite discoveries in recent years. I loved Primal Rage. It's such a fun 80s rage virus horror film that takes place on a college campus. The Severed Arm. This is one of my earliest Vinegar Syndrome pickups that I ever bought. And it's actually a really good proto-slasher from the 70s with a very interesting premise about guys who get trapped and they end up having to eat one of their friends' arms to survive. Dark. Tough Guys Don't Dance. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about it, that it's great, but it's also like so bad it's good. I don't know. It's starring Ryan O'Neal, who I like. And Rosalba Neri, I think is... No, not Rosalba Neri. Who am I thinking of? From Blue Velvet, right? Isabella Rossellini. That's right. This is a great video. Okay, let's keep going. Trauma from Dario Argento. Don't remember being a big fan of this one, but Vinegar Syndrome was selling it for a really cheap price on sale once. So it's Argento. I'll give it another chance. So I definitely bought it. Vacation of Terror 1 and 2. Mexican horror movies. Looking forward to checking these out. Still have not. The Vampire and the Werewolf Woman. That's not what I meant to say at all. I'm getting delirious. The Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman. And this is a really fun, good Paul Naschy werewolf and vampire movie on 4K, no less. Really enjoy it. And now into the non-slip-covered Vinegar Syndromes I have. Technically, this is a Vinegar Syndrome partner label, but it's Cain and Abel. It's a Filipino movie, I think. Very violent, modern-day telling of the biblical Cain and Abel stories, so I hear. I've not watched it. Cemetery of Terror. This is a very fun, very ridiculous Mexican slasher movie from the 80s. Don't Panic. These three films are all from the same director. What is it? Ruben Galando Jr. And Cemetery of Terror is pretty great. Grave Robbers is kind of boring. I didn't really like it. And Don't Panic is so ridiculous. It's like a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff kind of movie, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. My Chauffeur, a very different kind of movie for Vinegar Syndrome. This is a romantic comedy from the 80s starring Deborah Foreman, who I love. And I remember this being a really good movie. And I bought it, but I haven't rewatched it on Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray yet. I just saw it on streaming years ago. I really liked it. Night Beast, ridiculous, insane, no budget regional alien horror movie. I watched it with a buddy of mine and we just had a great time laughing at the movie. I'm sorry. I don't like to laugh at movies, but sometimes I do. Party Line, haven't seen it yet. Heard it's pretty fun. And another partner label release from Terror Vision, WNUF Halloween Special. Really good Halloween movie. Okay, let's keep going. That's all the Vinegar Syndromes. Let's go on to Vestron. I actually did a video on my old Vestron collection, so I'll breeze through these pretty quick because I went into these more in depth in that video. You can check it out on the channel. Chopping Mall, really, really like it. Mall horror movie. Waxwork and Waxwork 2. Love Waxwork. Waxwork 2 is okay, but the first one's pretty great. Return of the Living Dead 3, possibly the best movie Vestron ever released. Gosh, I just love this. It's probably my favorite Return of the Living Dead movie. Lair of the White Worm, pretty cool gothic Ken Russell vampire movie. Yes, it is a vampire movie. Some people tried to argue with me about that. Explicitly stated in the movie, they're vampires. Parents, bad movie. Sorry, bad movie. But I love Vestron, so I kind of collect them. Don't have them all, but I'm pretty close. The Gate, that's one of the better Vestron movies for sure. Good like gateway horror movie. Wishmaster Collection, it's got all 4 of them. I've still only seen the first one, but I do love it. The Unholy, that's a pretty great religious horror movie, kind of underrated. I really like that movie. The Warlock Collection, it's got all 3 Warlock films. Also still only seen the first one here, but I'm a big fan of it. Warlock is a ton of fun. Slaughter High, this is a 1980s slasher movie. It's okay. It's okay, you know, for what it is. Class of 1999, I really like Class of 1984. This is the sequel. I still haven't seen it, but I am looking forward to it. Beyond Reanimator, this is the only Reanimator movie I still haven't seen. Dagon, great H.P. Lovecraft adaptation from Stuart Gordon about these people who end up on this island full of fish people that worship a sea god. It's awesome. Maximum Overdrive, Stephen King directed, bad movie, but kind of entertaining at the same time. Shivers, David Cronenberg's first movie, and it's pretty good. I'm glad to be able to own it because I think it wasn't on Blu-ray for a long time. Little Monsters, not a good movie, but I'm nostalgic about the VHS cover of this movie because I saw it in the video store a lot, but never watched it as a kid. I didn't watch it until the Vestron Blu-ray, and I probably just came to it too late. The Wraith is awesome. This is one of the most exciting Vestron releases for me because I loved this movie for a long time, and it wasn't available to own on home media. So glad Vestron released a really nice Blu-ray of it. Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat, really good vampire movie, actually, very fun. Dementia 13, have not seen it. Steel Dawn, kind of a weird Mad Max ripoff starring Patrick Swayze. Candyman, Day of the Dead, haven't seen it either. Dream a Little Dream, really like this movie. This was another really exciting Vestron release for me with Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. It's a really weird high concept high school movie, but I really like it. Extreme Prejudice, Walter Hill action movie. Not terribly good, to be honest. I wasn't a big fan of this movie. I thought it was kind of dull. Earth Girls Are Easy, really fun, 80s silly comedy with an early Jim Carrey performance. Silent Night, Deadly Night collection of 3, 4, and 5. Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, 4, and 5. I really enjoyed binging through this last Christmas season. They released it last Christmas, and I just had a lot of fun with them, but 5 is definitely the best one. The Dentist collection, still only seen the first one, but it exceeded my expectations. I really liked it. My Best Friend is a Vampire, an okay 80s vampire movie. Definitely not great. And Blue Steel. This is also in contention, I think, for the best movie Vestron has ever released. Fantastic cop movie, directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. I'd probably say this and Return of the Living Dead 3 are Vestron's best movies that they've released in this particular collection. Please don't be damaged slipcovers. I love these slipcovers. I'm surprised that's like my first fall in this whole video. Okay, scooch on over there. Next, we're going to talk about my Arrow video collection. I'm not a big Arrow collector, actually. I never have been. So I've got a few Arrow releases, and I've got a few other box sets around that I'll get to when I start getting to the box sets. But this box set I do have on the shelf, the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment. That's what they call it. This was a really exciting release for me because I never bought any of the Hellraiser movies before. I don't know. I was just kind of holding out for the perfect release because the first Hellraiser is like always on streaming. So I kind of wasn't in a rush. But yeah, this is the perfect release. It's got all 4 of the original movies. They're all in 4K. It's even got this giant book in there as well. Very, very cool. I love the original Hellraiser particularly. I'm a huge fan of it. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Arrow has released a lot of hard box fancy editions of a lot of movies. I usually don't buy them. Usually the cost is just not worth it to me. But Robin and Prince of Thieves is one that I did buy. This is one of my favorite movies. I've been waiting for it on 4K for a long time because the Blu-ray is subpar. It's not a good Blu-ray. The 4K is awesome. It looks absolutely beautiful. Fantastic movie. The Beyond, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, one of his Gates of Hell trilogy movies. I love The Beyond. I love Lucio Fulci. Bird with Crystal Plumage, great giallo from Dario Argento. Brain Damage, really fun Frank Henenlotter, crazy 80s B movie about a little brain that drugs you and eats things. It's really crazy. I really like it. Bride of Reanimator, nowhere near as good as the first Reanimator, but a pretty good sequel. But it's a big fall. Case of the Scorpion's Tail is a pretty great giallo film from, is it Sergio Martino? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sergio Martino directed this. And it's just like, if you want to know exactly what a giallo is, this is a perfect example of just exactly what a typical giallo is, done very, very well. City of the Living Dead. This is my favorite Fulci movie, one of my favorite Italian horror films of all time. Incredible, incredible zombie movie. Count Yorga collection. I love the first Count Yorga. Pretty close to love, at least. I really like it, but I don't really like the sequel, but I've got both in there. Don't Torture a Duckling from Lucio Fulci. I have seen this, but I haven't taken the plastic off since I actually bought it. It's a very different, very dark and serious kind of a giallo that takes place in like a rural area, which is very different for giallo. It's interesting. Dunwich Horror, H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. I've still not seen it. Just recently got that. Horror Express, pretty good movie with, I think it's a Spanish-British co-production, but it's got Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. I don't love it, but I think it's good, and I like seeing those guys together always. Hound of the Baskervilles, Hammer, Sherlock Holmes movie with Peter Cushing as Sherlock Holmes. House by the Cemetery, another one of Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell movies. I really like this movie. It's a really good, really weird Fulci version of what a haunted house movie is. Inferno, Dario Argento's sequel to Suspiria, at least this is a spiritual sequel. And not a big fan of this movie, actually. I got the chance to see it at a drive-in recently, which was really cool, but still didn't make me love the movie. The Invitation. This is actually a really good, underrated 80s slasher starring Daphne Zuniga. I actually really dig it. And Lisa and the Devil. This is a Mario Bava film I still haven't seen. I've had the plastic on this forever. My gosh, I need to get on the program, watch Lisa and the Devil for sure. Kill Baby Kill, in contention for my favorite Bava movie, Mario Bava movie. It's a great 1960s gothic film. I really like Kill Baby Kill. Killer Clowns from Outer Space just got released to be on 4K from Scream Factory, but this release is enough for me. This is a great release of this movie. It looks beautiful. It's packed with special features, and I love this very out of print, very valuable slipcover. Maniac Cop, pretty fun 80s movie. Not great by any means, but it's got Bruce Campbell and Tom Atkins, which is pretty cool. Mark of the Devil, haven't seen this yet. It's a 1970s witch hunting torture movie. And Vamp. Very fun 80s vampire movie. So other than the few box sets I've got around that I will get to, that's all of my Arrow releases. So let's see. That's all the stacks that I pulled. So I need to just grab some more stuff. Okay, let's start getting into the Warner Archive, shall we? I have a lot of Warner Archives, so let's get started. 42nd Street, a decent musical from the 30s, but it's one of those Bugsby Berkeley musicals, but he definitely made some better ones that we'll talk about. A Night at the Opera, that's a very fun Marx Brothers comedy. The Americanization of Emily, I forgot I bought this. I bought this a little while ago and I still haven't seen it. I kind of forgot about it. The Adventures of Don Juan, fantastic swashbuckler with Errol Flynn. Love that movie. The Ballad of Cable Hogue, that's actually one of my favorite Sam Peckinpah movies. Very good Western. The Bells Are Ringing, Dean Martin musical, have not seen it. The Big Sleep, well, doesn't get more classic noir than The Big Sleep. Great detective movie. Very confusing, but good. Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill. He made that right after he made Star Wars. Courtship of Eddie's Father. That's a pretty good 1960s drama / comedy with Glenn Ford. Curse of Frankenstein, one of my favorite movies of all time. I have a whole review of this on the channel. Dark of the Sun, actually a really good, intense action movie from the 60s, starring Rod Taylor and Jim Brown. Really like that, actually. Dark Passage with Bogey and Bacall, really good noir movie. Death Trap, very cool 1970s murder mystery that subverts a lot of expectations. Wow, I need more water. I'm about to kill over, folks. Designing Women. This is actually a pretty darn good 1950s romance movie about Gregory Peck and Lauren Bacall. They get married way too quickly. And it's about them trying to figure out, can they figure this out? Can they actually stay together when they jumped into this thing that they weren't expecting? And it's really good. Dial M for Murder. Great Hitchcock movie. I actually think it's really underrated. Dr. X, really fun 1930s horror movie. Dodsworth, haven't seen it yet. Heard it's excellent. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Pretty good 1970s horror B movie. Not B movie, TV movie. Kind of still B movie. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, one of my favorite horror films of all time. Man, just such an incredible 1930s telling of this classic story starring Frederick March. This was like my top must-want on Blu-ray for years, and they just released it like a couple of years ago. The Drunken Master 2, this is a Jackie Chan movie. Haven't watched this Blu-ray yet. I watched it with some friends, a dubbed version, and the dub was terrible, so it was kind of hard to get into it. But I need to watch the original version on Blu-ray. Edge of Darkness, pretty good Errol Flynn war movie. Eye of the Devil, pretty good folk horror movie from the 60s. Footlight Parade, Bugsby Berkeley musical. A little better than 42nd Street, but not the best. Freebie and the Bean, haven't seen it yet. James Caan, buddy cop movie, I believe. From Beyond the Grave. This is a great Amicus anthology, and I will be talking about it because I'm in the middle of my review series on the Amicus anthologies. Looking forward to talking about From Beyond the Grave. It's a really good one. Gaslight, haven't seen it. I know, it's a huge classic. I got to check it out. Gold Diggers of 1933. Here it is, my favorite of the Busby Berkeley 1930s musicals. Fantastic movie. Good News, a 1940s musical at a college campus. It's very bright and colorful and fun. Gun Crazy, very dark lovers on the run noir film from 1940s or 50s. Very good movie. The Hidden, pretty classic 1980s horror action movie about some kind of a demon or something that possesses people and jumps from body to body, killing people, and these cops are on their tail. I didn't super enjoy it when I first saw it, but I kept it around because I want to rewatch it and give it another chance. I'm not sure why I didn't dig it. Holiday Affair, great black and white Christmas movie. Really love it. Horror of Dracula, one of the best movies of all time. I love Horror of Dracula so much, and really happy to have this Warner Archive Blu-ray. House of Wax. This is a movie I wanted on Blu-ray for a long time, and I was so happy that Warner Archive released it. Vincent Price, 1950s horror movie. Gosh, I just love House of Wax. I Confess. This is a Hitchcock movie. I don't think it's one of Hitchcock's best. It's starring Montgomery Clift, and I don't think he's super good in the movie, and I think that's something that really holds me back on it. All right, let me move these aside here. Okay, Innocent Blood, fantastic 90s vampire movie. I actually just did a video on my top 15 vampire movies from the 90s. Spoilers, this was number 2. I think it's incredible. It Happened on Fifth Avenue, pretty good Christmas comedy from the 40s, black and white movie. I quite enjoyed it. It's Always Fair Weather. This is my second favorite Gene Kelly musical. Of course, first is Singing in the Rain, but It's Always Fair Weather is really, really good. It's got a whole sequence where Gene Kelly tap dances on roller skates. It's pretty amazing. Ivanhoe, actually a really good movie. This is a 1950s, like medieval kind of a movie, kind of trying to be like an Adventures of Robin Hood kind of thing. And it's pretty successful. Joe versus the Volcano, awesome movie. Of all of the Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks collaborations, of which there were many, this one's my favorite. It's a very weird, quirky comedy, but it really works for me personally. Libeled Lady, excellent. 5-star rom-com. Holy cow, starring Jean Harlow, William Powell, Myrna Loy, Spencer Tracy. Such a great plot. Like, just look up the plot of Libeled Lady and be like, man, that's a great premise. I got to check that out. That's what you'll think. Long Trailer, pretty good. Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball comedy. It's basically I Love Lucy, but as a movie with the characters' names changed. Mad Love, great pre-code 1930s horror movie starring Peter Lorre. I love it. Mark of the Vampire, really enjoy this. It's a vampire movie starring Bela Lugosi that's not a Dracula movie. It's got a twist at the end that I don't love, but otherwise I really enjoy the movie. Murder My Sweet, really good murder mystery noir film. It's a Philip Marlowe film, like Bogey played in The Big Sleep. And it's probably my favorite Philip Marlowe movie, actually. Mystery of the Wax Museum. This is the original version of House of Wax. And to me, it's nowhere near as good, but it's, it's a decent little 1930s horror movie, but it's definitely not a top favorite for me. The Naked Spur, excellent Jimmy Stewart Western. It's also got Janet Leigh, one of my favorite actresses, and Robert Ryan and Ralph Meeker. Holy cow, what a cast. Very dark, brutal Western from the 50s. Night School, 1980 slasher. Not great, but pretty good. Night Shift, one of my favorite comedies. Holy cow, I love this movie, starring Michael Keaton in his breakout role and Henry Winkler as a couple of normal guys who start a prostitution ring out of the morgue where they work. Crazy premise, but holy cow, does it work. It's also just a very sweet and uplifting movie, which you wouldn't quite expect. One Crazy Summer, an okay movie. John Cusack movie from Savage Steve Holland, not as good as Better Off Dead, which is the better movie from those guys. Our Dancing Daughters. This is a silent flapper girl, 1920s, roaring 20s kind of a movie with Joan Crawford. It's just cool to see the roaring 20s authentically, not through a Great Gatsby movie that's just adapting that time, but there really was that time. It's an interesting historical piece. Out of the Past, very good noir film starring Robert Mitchum. Picture of Dorian Gray, decent. I don't love it like a lot of other people do. I thought it was a little dull, mostly because of the lead actor who's very boring. The Pirate, an okay MGM musical with Gene Kelly and Judy Garland. Nowhere near great, for sure. It's very artificial looking. Like all the sets look kind of ridiculous. Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex, an interesting movie about a relationship between Queen Elizabeth and a younger man, the Earl of Essex. It's an interesting, court drama, like not a courtroom, but like the royal court. That's what I'm looking for. Pump Up the Volume. Awesome movie. Awesome Christian Slater movie about teen angst. And it's just so successful by being a teen angst movie. Rancho Notorious, pretty good Western with Marlena Diedrich. Ride the High Country, a fantastic Western from Sam Peckinpah. Actually, this would be my favorite Sam Peckinpah movie, actually. I'm staking that claim right now. Running on Empty, a very emotional 1980s drama starring River Phoenix. He's in this family that's on the run from the law because his parents were hippies back in the 60s and they did some protest, and the protest ended up violent when they didn't mean it to. And now they've been on the run from the police ever since. And it's about River Phoenix trying to come of age, be a teenager, while having to move from place to place because of this horrible lifestyle. And I've been talking about this one for a while because I love this movie. It's very emotional. And I highly recommend it. It's from Sidney Lumet, right? Yeah, it's a Sidney Lumet film. Satanic Rites of Dracula, one of the most okay, down the middle, meh, I don't care, Hammer movies ever made. The Seahawk, not one of my favorite Errol Flynn movies, actually. Nowhere near as good as Captain Blood, which Warner Archive needs to release. The Sea Wolf, haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's great. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, insane musical, really insane. Showdown in Little Tokyo, very fun 90s action movie with Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee. Really enjoy Showdown in Little Tokyo. It's just got some ridiculous dialogue that's just as entertaining as the action. Some Came Running, really great 1950s drama starring Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Shirley MacLaine. Holy cow, what an emotionally impactful movie. Sunday in New York, one of my favorite movies of all time. Just one of my favorite feel-good, just no stress, no drama, kind of rom-coms, 60s comedies ever made. Starring Jane Fonda and Rod Taylor and Cliff Robertson. I just love it so much. Highly recommend Sunday in New York. The Tender Trap, pretty good 1950s romantic comedy with Frank Sinatra and Debbie Reynolds. I just love Sinatra. I'm just a big Sinatra fan in general, so that's why I like that, even though it's certainly not great. The Tex Avery Screwball Classics Collection, really fun just collection of Tex Avery cartoons from back in the day. The Thin Man, one of the best just movies ever. The sequel, After the Thin Man, Another Thin Man. Shadow of the Thin Man, The Thin Man Goes Home, and Song of the Thin Man. So I have all the Thin Man movies, those classic screwball murder mysteries with William Powell and Myrna Loy. The Thing from Another World, very good 1950s sci-fi movie that got remade by John Carpenter, better, much later on. The Three Musketeers, good swashbuckler with Gene Kelly. Tin Cup, I really like this as a sports movie, golf movie with Kevin Costner and Rene Russo. To Have and Have Not, probably my favorite of the Bogey and Bacall movies, perhaps controversially. Two on a Guillotine. Really like this as a 1960s kind of horror comedy. Almost feels like William Castle meets Disney. Really like it. Whoa. All right. Village of the Damned. I really like this 1960s horror movie, but honestly, really like the John Carpenter version too. And I'm not sure which one I like better. Wagon Master, good John Ford Western. Wait Until Dark. I still haven't seen this. I need to watch it. The Wheeler Dealers. That's a really fun 1960s rom-com with Jennifer Gardner and Lee Remick. While the City Sleeps. That's a good serial killer hunting movie from the 50s from Fritz Lang. Possibly 40s. I'm not sure. I think 50s. Wife versus Secretary. Kind of a mix of a drama and a comedy with a great cast. Clark Gable, Jean Harlow, and Myrna Loy from the 1930s. And we got The Wonderful World of Brothers Grimm, which is a phenomenal fairy tale movie. It kind of doubles as a story about the Brothers Grimm and their life, and it tells some of their stories as anthology segments, and it's really great. So that's my whole Warner Archive collection. Now let's go into some random Digipacks that I just shelved altogether just because. The Dark Crystal, which is a really cool 80s fantasy movie, all with puppets. Jim Henson's company was behind it. Really cool Digipack here. And All About Eve, such an awesome Bette Davis drama, so influential. Buck and the Privates, a decent little wartime Abbott and Costello movie that I got on this cool Digipack at a Dollar General, dirt cheap, years ago. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Still love this movie. I still think it's just such a phenomenal movie about a lot of things, but also just great performances and great characters. The Matrix, the original classic. Poltergeist, love this movie. And The Sting, that's another one that I got at Dollar General, dirt cheap, years ago. Okay, so next we're going to go into some kind of, yikes. We're going to go into some miscellaneous boutique label stuff. Boutique labels that I decided to shelve together, but are all on the same shelf because I didn't have that many of them. So starting with Shout Factory, not Scream Factory, just Shout Factory. We got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which I really enjoyed both these movies. I actually like the sequel a little bit better. And The Blue Dahlia, still have not watched that. It's classic noir. The Burbs, one of my favorite 80s, probably my favorite 80s comedy, actually, I would have to say. Danger Diabolique, really weird. Isn't this Mario Bava? Yeah, it's a really weird Mario Bava, action adventure spy movie. Very strange. Elvis, the John Carpenter telling of Elvis. I still have not watched it. It's if you count this as a movie, it's the only John Carpenter movie I haven't seen. The Glass Key, have not watched it yet. Man in the Iron Mask on 4K. Really love this movie. It was a classic from my childhood, and I still love it to this day. It's a good Three Musketeers movie. Matinee, one of the greatest movies ever made. I think Joe Dante. Gosh, it's about love of movies, love of theaters, love of horror. It's just a movie that's designed to get me in the feels, and it's about to get released on 4K, which is cool. Roadhouse, amazing movie. Rolling Thunder, also just an incredible revenge thriller from the 70s. Holy cow, starring William Devane. Awesome movie. Streets of Fire, never loved this one like a lot of other people do. It's a musical from the 80s, but it's also an action movie, and I don't know, I find all the characters in it very unpleasant. This Gun for Hire, have not seen this either. Used Cars, that's a fun Robert Zemeckis movie with Kurt Russell. Valley Girl, my favorite 80s teen movie. Absolutely love Valley Girl with Nicolas Cage and Deborah Foreman. Speaking of Nicolas Cage, Wild at Heart, David Lynch film with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. Probably one of my favorite David Lynch movies. Okay, now we're getting into my Severin stuff other than the box sets. We'll get to the box sets. I've decided at the end. We're going to end with box sets. But here is Absurd. This is kind of a Halloween-inspired slasher movie. I've seen part of it. I never did finish it. It's an Italian horror film, so I need to finish that. An Angel for Satan, just recently I got it back in October. Barbara Steele, Italian Gothic film. I still haven't watched it, so I need to check it out. Blood for Dracula, really like this. Sick, twisted, weird telling of the Dracula story starring Udo Kier. Kathy's Curse, an absolutely insane Exorcist, The Omen, kind of a ripoff. They're about to release this on 4K too, which is just wild. The Changeling, one of my favorite haunted house movies of all time, starring the great George C. Scott. I love The Changeling. The Devil's Honey. This is a Lucio Fulci erotic thriller. It's really strange and sleazy from what I remember, but to be honest, I don't remember it super well. Night of the Demon. This is a Bigfoot movie. I still have not watched this. Definitely need to. And then Skinner. Haven't seen this either. It's a serial killer movie from the 90s starring Ted Raimi. So that's my standalone Severin stuff. Now let's get into Synapse. From Synapse, I've got Curtains. This is an 80s slasher that takes place out in the snow, which is pretty cool. A weird and interesting movie about trying to make a movie, but then also there's a slasher killer on the loose. Demons 2. I actually don't own Demons 1, despite the fact that I like it better. I got this for a really good price, but I need to get Demons 1 as well. Phenomena. Love this from Dario Argento. It's one of my favorites of his movies. One of my favorite 80s horror films. One of my favorite Italian horror films. Popcorn, a pretty good 90s horror movie about a movie theater. So it's cool to see a movie theater as a setting. Satan's Little Helper. I actually just recently got this. I remember liking this movie, but it was years ago. So I want to rewatch it. It's in a Halloween movie from, I believe, the early 2000s. Suspiria, the original classic. One of the greatest movies ever made, probably. Absolutely love Suspiria. Tenebrae, another one of my favorite Dario Argento films. Tenebrae is an incredible slasher, and giallo. Twins of Evil, one of my favorite Hammer movies. It's a great just Hammer horror film about vampires and witchcraft and witch hunting and all kinds of cool, spooky stuff going on in that movie. And now we're getting into Code Red. So all my Code Red releases. So Blast Fighter. This is a Lamberto Bava action movie, a Italian version of like an American action film. But I actually really, really like it. It's got like a good country action kind of a feel to it. I think it's actually really fun. Blue Monkey. This is a horror film about a giant bug. It's not amazing, but it's got a giant bug. And it's practical, which is cool. Delirium. This is a very sleazy, but very cool giallo, actually. And how's that for cover art? That's pretty striking, isn't it? Yeah, I actually really like that one. It's also Lamberto Bava. I'm a big fan of him as a director. This is a Lamberto Bava film as well, Devilfish. I haven't seen it. I've not heard good things, but I like Lamberto Bava, so I'll check it out. Don't Tell Her It's Me, aka The Boyfriend School, a movie starring Steve Guttenberg as a kind of a unattractive guy who works himself up into being a stud and pretends to be this like motorcycle Australian badass to get Jamie Gertz. It's very silly, but it's very fun. I enjoy it. Hands of Steel. I've seen this a couple of times actually, but not since I bought it. So it's in the plastic wrap still, but this is another Italian action film. It's ridiculous, but I like it. It's kind of a Terminator style movie. Just Before Dawn, one of my favorite 80s slashers, underrated 80s slashers. Very, very good. And then Nail Gun Massacre, which I have not seen. So that's my miscellaneous boutique labels that I have a decent amount of, but not enough for their own shelf. Now let's get into Scream Factory. So I'm just going to try to go through these pretty quickly because I've got a video on the channel where I go through my whole Scream Factory collection. So if you want to hear more in-depth collection of Scream Factory, that's on the channel for you to check out. But I've got Brides of Dracula, which is a great Hammer Dracula film. Autopsy of Jane Doe. I haven't seen this in a while and I need to rewatch it because I didn't have a great viewing experience with it the first time. Not the movie's fault. Army of Darkness. Hail to the King, baby. How can you not love Army of Darkness? I actually got a chance to see that in the theater years ago and it was awesome. April Fool's Day. Pretty good time. It's a, 80s slasher, but it's not quite what you think. It's definitely different, but I like it. Alone in the Dark. This is a great underrated 80s slasher with really great atmosphere and a fantastic cast, including like Jack Palance and Donald Pleasance and a lot of great people. The Omen collection. The first Omen just came out actually, and I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I love the first Omen. And the sequel is okay, and I haven't seen the rest of them. The Fly collection, however, I like all of these movies. Every Fly movie is at least good. The Curse of the Fly is probably the most underrated. Check it out if you haven't yet. The Critters collection, I've seen the first two. They're okay. I still haven't seen 3 or 4. I got this dirt cheap. Seems like everybody did. It was one Scream Factory was just trying to get rid of. Creepshow, so much better than Creepshow 2. Wow, feels like years ago that I was talking about Creepshow 2. Yeah, I love Creepshow, and I love this beautiful hardbox release. I have no interest in upgrading to the 4K because this release is awesome. Friday the 13th collection, possibly the coolest thing Scream Factory has ever done. I wish they would do this for Nightmare on Elm Street so much, but then again, we all do, right? Clearly, we can't always get what we want. Okay, let's keep going. We've got The Howling. Really good werewolf movie from Joe Dante. It's not one of my absolute favorites, to be honest, but I do really like it. And it was the first Scream Factory that I ever bought. In the Mouth of Madness, one of the best John Carpenter movies. Absolutely love it. The 1978 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, very good, but I prefer the original, I gotta admit. 1970s King Kong, haven't seen this one quite yet. Kiss of the Vampire. This is a good Hammer vampire movie, and it's not a Dracula movie. So it's cool when they make a vampire movie that doesn't have Dracula. And I like it. It's not amazing, but I enjoy it. Larry Fessenden collection, 4 films from director Larry Fessenden. I've only seen Wendigo and Habit. I haven't seen the other 2, but I really love Wendigo. That one's my favorite. My Bloody Valentine, one of the greatest slasher movies ever made. I love this original film so much. I love the characters, the kills, the violence that this unrated cut on this Blu-ray restores, which is really cool. Night of the Demons 2 and 3. I just recently got these. I really love 2, but I haven't watched 3 yet. And I really like the original, but I have that one on Steelbook. We'll talk about it in just a little bit. Ninja 3, The Domination. Crazy canon ninja movie involving a ninja possessing a girl. It's crazy. Paul Naschy Collection Volume 1 and Paul Naschy Collection Volume 2. Love these. I love Paul Naschy. Must owns for me. Hammer's Phantom of the Opera. It's actually my favorite Phantom of the Opera movie. I think it's pretty darn awesome. Poltergeist 3. Like I said, I don't remember this movie very well. I actually won this in a contest, which was pretty cool. Prince of Darkness from John Carpenter. Man, what a great movie. One of Carpenter's best. Pumpkinhead, such a great 80s horror movie with an incredible practical effect that is that Pumpkinhead monster. Pyewacket, pretty good recent indie horror movie. Decent. I got it really cheap, to be honest with you. Return of the Living Dead on 4K. Beautiful 4K. And I really, really love this movie. One of the best zombie movies. Silver Bullet. Also love this movie. One of my favorite werewolf movies. Not great cover art. I kind of want to upgrade to the 4K just so I can get better cover art than that. Sleepwalkers. I like that cover art, though. It's pretty crazy. This is a wild Stephen King movie. Not based on a Stephen King book. It's a Stephen King script. It's a crazy script about like cat people and stuff. And it's a really enjoyable experience for me. Tales from the Dark Side could be my favorite horror anthology. It's in the running. Absolutely love this. It's only 3 stories, but they're all great, especially the last one, which is amazing. Another anthology, Tales from the Hood, which is pretty good. I don't completely love it, but it's like a horror anthology from a Black perspective about Black stories. And yeah, now that I think about it, most of all the segments are really good. I really do like it. Candyman. Candyman is awesome. I got a chance to see it in a theater last year and it was amazing. Company of Wolves on 4K. So glad they released this. I love it when Scream Factory puts out a 4K release that's not a re-release, that's something new, something that needs a Blu-ray release here in the States. And this is just incredible fairy tale werewolf movie. Gosh, I just love it so much. More werewolves. The Curse of the Werewolf. One of the classic Hammer films. I love The Curse of the Werewolf. Deadly Blessing, a underrated Wes Craven movie. One of my favorite like horror movies with farmland atmosphere, which is an atmosphere for horror I really like. More Wes Craven, Deadly Friend. Also super enjoy this movie. It's very corny and ridiculous, but in a great way. Just a really, really fun way. A really fun suburban horror movie. Dracula 1979, starring Frank Langella. Great telling of the story. Really love that film. Evil of Frankenstein, pretty bad. Frankenstein Created Woman, pretty phenomenal. I have reviews of both of these on the channel because I reviewed the whole Hammer Frankenstein franchise. From Beyond, one of my favorite horror films, probably my favorite H.P. Lovecraft film from Stuart Gordon. Gosh, I just love From Beyond so much. It's so weird and trippy and awesome. John Carpenter's Halloween on 4K. The only one of the Halloween movies I have on 4K. Maybe I'll get more one of these days, but that's the only one I felt the need for right now. Haunting of Julia. This is another one they released on 4K for the first time. This wasn't a re-release, which was pretty cool. And it's a good haunted house movie that I've been wanting to see for a long time. So I was really excited when they released it. Terror Train. An okay 80s slasher starring Jamie Lee Curtis. Definitely not one of her best, but pretty good. Okay. The Thing. Come on, it's one of the best movies ever made. I know it's gotten several 4K releases, but I don't know. This Blu-ray looks phenomenal to me, so I've not felt the need to upgrade it. It's a gorgeous Blu-ray. 13 Ghosts, very silly. Dark Castle movie, a remake of the William Castle film, which I've got right back there. We'll get to it when we get to box sets. It's very silly, but I really enjoyed it. I like Matthew Lillard's performance in it. I've got 3 of the Universal Horror collections, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 6. I jumped all the way to Volume 6 because I wanted Shadow of the Cat because it's a Hammer movie. So, you know, the batting average on these movies these box sets isn't phenomenal. There's some duds in there, but I like them well enough. Now I've got the 3 Vincent Price collections. I absolutely love these. I treasure them. Tons of Vincent Price movies. So happy to have all 3. Now we're getting into the non-slipcovered stuff. The Abominable Snowman from Hammer. After Midnight. This is a really good anthology. I haven't watched the Blu-ray since I got it, but I watched it on streaming. It's a really good horror anthology for sure. Ambulance from Larry Cohen. Assault on Precinct 13 Steelbook from John Carpenter. That's my favorite Carpenter action movie. The Babadook. That's a very good modern horror film. Backcountry, a bear horror movie. This is one of those IFC Midnight releases that they did. Scary bear movie. Double pack of Bad Dreams and Visiting Hours. Both movies are good, so this is probably one of their best double packs. Beyond the Gates. This is one of my favorite modern horror movies. I actually really enjoy Beyond the Gates. I think it's super fun. Black Christmas, absolute classic. Blackula and Scream Blackula Scream. Body Bags, John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper anthology collaboration. The Brain. Haven't watched this yet, but it looks fun. Looks like a cheesy good time. Body Parts, kind of a retelling of Mad Love from the 30s, but from the 90s, in which this guy gets arm transplant, and it turns out to be the arm of a killer. And spooky stuff's going to happen. The Body Snatcher from Val Lewton. Great Boris Karloff performance in this. Great movie. Cellar Dweller and Catacombs. Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter. The Burning, really fun 80s slasher movie. Bubba Hotep. I haven't seen this since I was a kid, and I didn't like it when I was a kid, but I've been wanting to rewatch it. I want to give it another chance because I love Bruce Campbell, and I really like Don Coscarelli too. He's the director. Cherry Falls, crazy early 2000s slasher movie in which a killer is killing virgins instead of the final girl like being a virgin. So it's kind of a flip on that. It's really weird, but I like it. The Craft. This is a good witch movie from the 90s. Everybody knows The Craft, right? Day of the Dead. Of course, I love Day of the Dead, but I haven't rewatched it since buying the Blu-ray. I've seen it on streaming several times. But come on, George Romero. Awesome movie. Die Monster Die with Boris Karloff. That's an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's Color Out of Space. Fun fact. Doctor and the Devils. Haven't seen this yet. Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. That's one of my favorite Hammer movies, actually. I really love that. And The Exorcist 3. So I've got more, but I just need to make a little bit of room here. It's like Jenga. We're playing Jenga here. Are you guys feeling the tension? I sure am. All right. Eyes of a Stranger. Actually a really intense 80s slasher movie that's, you know, it's a slasher, but it's also almost more of a thriller. It's very intense. Very good. Fear in the Night. A Hammer movie actually I haven't finished yet. I got kind of bored with it, and I need to go back and finish it. Final Exam. I think that's pretty underrated. Firestarter. Okay. Stephen King adaptation. The Fog. One of my favorite movies of all time. John Carpenter. How can you go wrong? Frankenstein, The True Story. One of the best TV movies I've ever seen. It's a TV movie adaptation of Frankenstein from the 1970s, and it's incredible. Excuse me. It placed very high on my top Frankenstein movies list, which is a video I did on the channel. The Funhouse. Love this. One of my favorite slasher movies. One of my favorite Tobe Hooper movies. Ghost Story. It's okay. Halloween 2 and Halloween 3. Even if I ever upgrade these to 4K, I will never get rid of these because I'm so nostalgic about them. I think they're the first Scream Factory releases, and I love them. I love their original cover art. That was just a great time when those were coming out. The Hills Run Red. Very extreme slasher movie, I'll say that. Horror of Frankenstein. A terrible movie, but it's Hammer, so I have it. House That Dripped Blood. Great Amicus movie. The House That Screamed. Okay movie. I Come in Peace. Really fun 90s action movie with Dolph Lundgren, but also has aliens. This is another Craig R. Baxley movie like Action Jackson. I, Madman, really, really good movie. I need to rewatch this. Somebody was in the comments was talking about this movie recently, and it reminded me of it. And I was like, oh yeah, I need to see that. Very out of print though, so I'm happy to have it. I Saw What You Did. Really good 1960s teen horror movie. You don't see a lot of teen horror from that early era. It's a William Castle movie. I love William Castle. Island of Terror, pretty fun Peter Cushing movie. Not a Hammer film though. Killer Party, that's a good slasher film. Not great, but good. Legend of Hell House, not one of my favorites, but it's a classic haunted house movie for sure. The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, this crazy Shaw Brothers Kung Fu collaboration, ended Hammer's Hammer Dracula series. Crazy. Life Force, I love Life Force. It's probably my favorite Tobe Hooper movie, to be honest with you. Double pack of Love at First Bite and Once Bitten. I love Once Bitten. I still need to see Love at First Bite. Lust for a Vampire, really fun Hammer film. Mad Max, come on, it's an absolute classic. Not quite as good as The Road Warrior, but really good. I love Mad Max. Memoirs of an Invisible Man, underrated John Carpenter movie, actually. A lot of people hate that one, but I really like it. Motel Hell, fun, wacky little cannibal out in the country farm kind of a movie. The Mummy Shroud, that's the third Hammer Mummy movie. Murders in the Rue Morgue. Saw this one a long time ago. I haven't rewatched it since I got the Blu-ray, but I remember being a pretty good Bela Lugosi horror film. My Demon Lover. I just recently saw this and I really enjoyed it. Very corny, romantic comedy, demon movie. How many movies like that are there out in the world? The Nest. Haven't seen this yet. That cover art looks awesome though. That's one of my recent pickups. Night of the Comet. One of my favorite movies of all time. Gosh, I just love Night of the Comet. Night of the Creeps, also an awesome movie. Night of the Demons, there's that steelbook I told you all about. The Nightwalker is a William Castle movie I'm not so big a fan of, to be honest. Nightbreed, I saw this a long time ago. I wasn't a big fan of it, but I want to check out the director's cut, so I need to watch this. And Nightmares, a very, very okay anthology movie. So let me go ahead and make some more room. Grab this last stack of Scream Factories. Okay. There we go. All right. Yeah, wow. I just feel absolutely buried on the screen. I'm going to scooch that aside. That's a little better. I feel a little bit less claustrophobic. I feel like the frame that you're looking at is a little less claustrophobic now. Nosferatu the Vampire, Werner Herzog's remake of the original silent Nosferatu, and I think it's awesome. I think Klaus Kinski is fantastic in that role. Of Unknown Origin, just recently saw this. I thought it was okay. People Under the Stairs is one of my favorite Wes Craven movies. Absolutely love it. One of the best 90s horror movies, probably. Phantom of the Opera, this is the Robert Englund as Phantom of the Opera, directed by Dwight H. Little from Halloween 4. And I wasn't a big fan of it when I saw it. But one day I'll do a big Phantom of the Opera ranking video and I'll rewatch it for that. Plague of the Zombies, one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Hammer films. Quatermass 2, still have not seen it. Psycho 2, one of the greatest sequels of all time. Psycho 4, not so great, but okay. Quatermass in the Pit, really good Hammer film. Ravenous, very good cannibal movie. Razorback, have not seen it yet. That's a recent pickup. The Reptile, pretty good Hammer film. The Resurrected, that's a pretty interesting H.P. Lovecraft adaptation with Chris Sarandon. And it's the only other movie directed by Dan O'Bannon. He also did Return of the Living Dead, and he wrote Alien. Return of the Vampire, an okay 1940s vampire movie with Bela Lugosi. I remember this being pretty good, but I rewatched it before my 1940s ranking video, and I don't think it's very good. It's unfortunate. I wish it was. It kind of fell apart for me on a rewatch. Scars of Dracula, pretty fun Hammer Dracula movie. Far from one of the best, but not terrible by any means. Shocker from Wes Craven. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Love it. Love that movie. Sleepaway Camp. Really love that movie. That's a great slasher movie. Just a trashy movie that I really enjoy. Someone's Watching Me. Really good John Carpenter TV movie, actually. It's pretty great. John Carpenter's Starman, one of my favorites from Carpenter. I love that film. Strays, this is a good TV movie about cats attacking. It's basically arachnophobia, but with cats. That's how I describe it. Superstition. I saw this a long time ago and I enjoyed it. It's a supernatural witch slasher movie from the 80s. But I want to rewatch it now that I got the Blu-ray. Definitely want to do that. Amicus double pack of Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. You gotta have that. If you're You guys were expecting that, weren't you? I dropped one. I dropped two. Oh man. This is quite the endeavor. It's crazy that it took that long for this to happen, to be honest. Okay, the two that fell were the two Tales from the Crypt movies, Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood. I very much enjoy both. I recommend both. Right over here. Then we've got The Tingler. Oh, awesome William Castle, Vincent Price movie. So crazy, but so fun. They Live, classic. You have to have They Live. This Island Earth, pretty good 1950s science fiction movie. Great visuals, especially towards the end. They go out into space to another planet. It's really cool. This is, I think, the last classic Hammer movie before they had their revival like in the 2000s. This is To the Devil, a Daughter. And not great. I've only seen it once. Definitely didn't think it was great, but it's got Christopher Lee, so that's cool. And it's a satanic horror film. Trick or Treat. I watch that every Halloween. I love it. The Vampire Lovers. Great vampire movie. Village of the Damned. Love this remake from John Carpenter. I really, really love it. Witchboard. Crazy movie. Pretty fun. And The Witches. Okay, time for the grand finale. We're talking about box sets, kicking off with West Side Story. It's just the original West Side Story movie, but it's this just crazy fancy release, and I actually got it really cheap. It's really cool. It's got a lot of cool stuff in there. No, I'm not going to be doing unboxings of all of these, by the way. I think this video is long enough. The Severin release of All the Haunts Be Ours. A great box set of a bunch of folk horror films. It's really cool. I've only gone through about half of it so far, but I've been really happy with pretty much everything in there. Mondo Macabro box set, the Bollywood Horror Collection. I have a video on this. It was very interesting going through this, seeing all those Bollywood horror films. William Castle box set from Indicator. I love this. Unfortunately, it arrived to me pretty banged up. That's the problem with ordering used from Amazon. So they don't give you pictures. So sometimes you get stuff damaged. But I love the movies in here, especially, well, I mean, The Tingler, Homicidal, Mr. Sardonicus, all great. And 13 Ghosts is pretty good. Pretty good. The Arrow Video box set, Inside the Mind of Coffin Joe. Beautiful box set. Really cool. Got a bunch of movies in there. I've only watched the first two, but they've been interesting and I did enjoy them. Loved this. This is the Indicator box set, Mexico Macabre box set. 4 Mexican horror films from the 50s and 60s. I absolutely loved them. I loved this box set. Just one of my favorite discoveries. I have a video of that on the channel as well as this one. This is Severin's Danza Macabra Volume 1 Italian Gothic Collection. It's got this collection of Gothic horror films. It's pretty cool. And then one of my prized possessions, my Universal Monsters classic box set with all like 31 monster movies. Gosh, I just love this so much. Love the Universal Monsters. Got this Stallone box set of Cobra, Assassins, Tango and Cash, The Specialist, and Demolition Man. So that's pretty fun. Randolph Scott collection, 12 different Westerns, the Mill Creek release. I bought this for the 5 Westerns he did with Bud Bedecker. Those are great movies. And I haven't watched the rest of them yet. The Marx Brothers, 5 different classic Marx Brothers movies on Blu-ray. The Inner Sanctum Mysteries. I have a video on this. It's a bunch of 1940s short little mystery horror films. Got to have Indiana Jones. Got the original 4 movies. The only 4 movies I care about in this franchise, frankly. I've had this almost as long as I've had a Blu-ray collection. That is a mainstay for me. 20 Hammer films. This is a Mill Creek release. I have a lot of duplicates, some others that I've got around, but I don't know. I just love having Hammer releases because I love Hammer. And this is a really, really cool box set. Dawn of the Dead. This is their second Sight Blu-ray release. It's not their biggest, most fanciest release they put out, but this one was much more affordable. And I love that movie. Chucky collection. I know there have been a lot of Chucky collections recently, but this is an older one that I have. And so far it's served me well. I do really enjoy the Child's Play movies. Back to the Future, amazing trilogy. You got to have Back to the Future, of course. Alfred Hitchcock. This is just 3 Hitchcock films, Notorious, Rebecca, and Spellbound. Oh, I've got 2 other Hitchcock box sets. I might as well get to these now. I've had this box set for a long time. This is like his 5 most popular movies. You know what they are. But then I just recently got this box set. It's got a bunch of movies. This is the Masterpiece Collection, and everything in here is also in here, but I haven't checked if the transfers are the same, if the special features are the same, so I kept this one. So lots of Hitchcock movies. Of course, I love Alfred Hitchcock. Who doesn't? Arrow Video, Enter the Video Store box set. Super cool. And this came out last year. I have a video on the channel about this as well. Severin, complete Lenzi Baker Giallo collection. These are 4 Giallos, all directed by Umberto Lenzi, all starring Carol Baker. I've watched 3 of the 4. They're pretty good. They're not amazing. And I haven't watched the last one, Knife of Ice. And I've got from Indicator a Samuel Fuller collection. I bought this with very good intentions that I was going to go through it, study Samuel Fuller. So far, I've only watched 2 movies on here, and I've had it for a long time. So I need to check more of those out. But that's it, folks. That's my entire Blu-ray collection. Wow. If you are still watching, I have a feeling you're one of the few, the proud. That's pretty amazing. So thank you so much for watching this video. I guess you enjoyed it. That's the only reason you would watch all of this. But hey, give a like if you enjoyed this. If you're not subscribed, I can't imagine you watched all this and you haven't hit subscribe, but hit the subscribe button. And if you want to stick around my channel, I've got a ton of other videos on the channel, a lot of which I've referenced in this video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.